Committee, welcome back from this morning. We're back from our recess break. We're now at 3:30, and we will, at this point, try to work diligently to complete our calendar. I think we're down to about 19 bills, if I counted correctly. We'll slow down a little bit since we have a little more time, but I still would like to get out of here by 6:30, if that's okay with y'all. But we'll shoot for that. And but I do want to, like I said this morning, stay on the bill and let's work diligently through this. Members, any announcement before we get started? Okay, seeing none. 3, consider action on. Do we need to take the roll? Oh, Madam Clerk, I'm sorry. Would you please take the roll call for us? Yeah, well, we need to know we have a quorum. Yeah. A couple people still signing in. One moment. We'll let Representative Johnson, Representative Baum, and Representative Hakeem get signed in. And we'll have the full committee here. You having trouble? Yeah, I had trouble this morning. There you go. Give Hakeem a couple more seconds. He must be a Democrat. Okay, would the clerk please count the roll call?
Mr. Chairman, you have 19 members present. Mr. Chairman, you have a quorum.
Thank you very much. Glad to have everyone back. Madam Clerk, thank you. Reconsider my action this morning. Let's go to item number 20. We had rolled that to the hill, but the sponsor is here, HB 1153 by Representative Lynn. Motion. You have a motion and a second. I don't see any amendments on your bill. Am I correct?
No amendments.
You got a motion. Go ahead and explain your bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This bill will do away with the reduced price category for the school lunch program. And does that mean that children will go hungry? No, the intent of the bill is to just expand the school lunch program to take in the reduced price category, and so that these children can have a free school lunch. This bill will ensure that no child in Tennessee goes hungry at school, and it will improve the health of children and improve academic performance by eliminating the middle price or reduced category. And it would also relieve much stress and anxiety for parents who are financially struggling. And I shared with the subcommittee, and they were so kind to listen to my personal story, although the situation has changed. And so it's not the case any longer. But, during COVID, there was a period where all school lunches were provided to children. And that was really great, and it was very helpful for parents and all of that. When COVID was over, we went back to the regular situation of free and reduced price lunches. Well, during that period of time, my own daughter, her husband had and he still has a very grave illness, and he actually will not recover. And it was a very, very hard time when they went back to the free and reduced price lunch program. And I'll tell you, I had so many tearful calls from the supermarket where I ran down and helped her really buy groceries. I mean, it's a really tough time for their family. Well, one of the phone calls I had was little Julie had run up her reduced lunch price to $30, and my daughter did not have the $30. And I just want you to know, you never know what somebody's situation is like. You never know what somebody's situation is like. Although her husband will never get better, their situation has improved, and they don't have those worries anymore. But I, for one, and you too, being a legislator, talking with families, seeing what families go through, seeing how situations change, that they go through situations like this. And it is very hard on the children too, because they're often aware of the family's financial struggles. This bill does not have a very large fiscal note, And it sure will help with security for a lot of families in Tennessee. It also will, that we also find that the school lunch program, believe it or not, helps locally because the schools actually do buy the food from local sources, which is also very helpful along with everything else. So, Mr. Chairman, with that, I don't know if you would want anyone to speak on the bill, but we do have some people, but
Okay,
I
let's
thank
see what
you.
the will of the committee is.
Okay.
I just want to ask you one question. Great bill. I was surprised at the fiscal note. Usually when you talk about free lunch programs, it's up in the hundreds of millions. Well,
Mhm.
could you explain how it's the 2 million mark?
It is. It's the 2 million mark. And that is because it's a rather small group that is on the reduced lunch program, rather small group. And so this will really relieve a lot of anxiety for these little kids as they go up to pay and in the cafeteria. And that, you know, and it's hard for the workers too. It's hard for the workers too, because sometimes they just don't have it on account. So.
Okay, with that explanation, does anybody on the committee have a question of our sponsor? Representative Spicky? Previous question's been called. Any objection to previous question? Hearing none, then would the clerk please put the vote on the board for House Bill 1153? Madam Clerk, please take the vote.
Mr. Chairman, you have
Finance.
19 ayes and 0 nays.
Okay, thank you. House Bill 1153 moves out of finance. Thank you.
Thank you.
Members, turn to item number 30. Which one? Oh, number 30. You want to keep it there? Okay. Item number 30, House Bill 1383 was rolled 5 spots from the Hill. So we will leave it there per the sponsor. Let's go to item number 33, House Bill 9997. Representative Stevens, you have a motion and a second. You are recognized. You do have an amendment. What is that amendment for your notes?
Oh, it's 4902.
4902, that's what we have. Members, this does rewrite the bill. Any objection to adding? We got a motion second. Any objection to adding it? Hearing no objection. All those in favor of adding 4902 to House Bill 997 indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. The amendment, go ahead and explain your bill now.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This bill ensures that students in a county with an authorized charter school are not charged tuition due to transfer from another LEA within that county, and that they will not be charged fees or tuition. It does not apply to situations where someone comes in from out of county, though.
Only within the county.
Correct.
Okay, members, comments or questions on the bill? Representative Raper? Representative Raper has called the question. Any objection to the question? Hearing none, would the clerk please put the vote on the board for House Bill 997? Madam Clerk, take the vote.
Mr. Chairman, you have 18 ayes and 0 nays.
House Bill 997 moves out the calendar and rules. Okay, Representative Stevens, you also have item number 34, House Bill 1162.
Motion.
You got a motion and second on your bill. What amendment are you wanting to add?
It's 6041.
Motion. Second.
6041 is correct. It does rewrite the bill. So any objection to adding the amendment to the bill for proper discussion? No objections. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Okay, your bill is amended. Go ahead and explain what we're doing.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In the rare case that two LEAs overlap, we need to ensure that charter schools authorized by one LEA are not prohibited from locating within another. And specifically, this applies to counties with just one special school district or one municipal school district within them. And the reason for this is that if a county authorizes a charter school, that it is allowed to operate within the limits of that municipal school district within the county.
Okay, we have that explanation. Without objection, I would like to ask legal if you can clarify. I also want to make sure that in this bill, the amendment covers. uh, In my district, we have 6 municipals, 1 other public school, and we passed a bill a number of years ago, and Representative Coley's here, where one LEA could not establish a charter and another LEA. Does this exempt in this language? We have that exemption language. We're out of session.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Katie Robertson, Office of Legal Services. Yes, the language provides that this does not apply for an LEA that has entered into a written agreement pursuant to the statute that you're mentioning.
Thank you very much. Anyone else while we're out of session? Representative Johnson?
It might just be for the sponsor. I'm not really sure. Well, I guess I could ask legal.
Go ahead.
So in Blount County, we've got Alcoa City, Maryville City, and Blount County Schools. So within that county, any charter could conceivably, any of those folks could go to that charter. Is that what this bill is saying?
Could you restate your question?
Yeah, restate that.
With the 3 school systems with LEAs within, say, Blount County.
Okay, so the bill is limited to a county LEA for which only one city school system.
Gotcha.
So that would be excluded from this bill.
And I think the main gist of the bill is that one LEA cannot establish a charter in another LEA. That's the main gist of what we're trying to protect and do what you want to do. Any more questions? Representative, do you have anything of legal? Okay. Without objection, we're back in session. Representative Stevens?
I renew my motion.
Motion's been renewed. Representative Raper?
Call the question.
Question's been called. Any objection to that question? Hearing none. Madam Clerk, please put the vote on the board. Madam Clerk, call the vote.
Mr. Chairman, you have 19 ayes and 0 nays.
House Bill 1162 moves out of the calendar and rules. Let's see here. Do you have one more, Representative Stevens?
I do.
Okay, let's go on to item number 35, House Bill 1163 by Representative Stevens. You got a motion and a second. Let's look. I think you do have an amendment.
I do actually have 2 amendments. The first one rewrites the bill, which is 4136.
Got a motion, second on the amendment, so I'll tell you. Is there, if there's not any objection to adding the amendment, since it does rewrite the bill, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Okay, we've added 4136 to the bill. You also have another amendment, 6037.
It's 6367.
Let's see. Next page. Okay, it does not rewrite the bill. Do I have a motion where we can hear the amendment before we add it to the bill? Okay, got a motion in a second. Reverend Stevens, would you explain Amendment 6367?
I would be glad to. It rewrites one section of the bill which deals with LEA's adjustments with their payments to charter schools from October, December, February, April, and June in the amendment from just October, February, and June in the original amendment. So it has 5 adjustments instead of 3 for the payments.
With that explanation, questions to the sponsor on that amendment? Representative Johnson?
So my question would be, I guess, why do we not want that money going to the LEA to be dispensed or dispersed as needed?
Representative Stevens, you want to address that?
Now, on this amendment, we're just saying when the LEA makes its payments to the charter school, we're on the amendment now, and it says it goes from
Oh, on the
three
amendment.
adjustments to 5 adjustments.
Okay, any objection to adding the amendment to the bill as when we have complete discussion? Hear no objection. Any objection? Say all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Okay, Reverend Stevens, your bill is fully amended. Go ahead and tell us now what we're doing.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman and Representative. I hope I answered your question during my presentation. But it makes the state portion of the funding, a direct allocation for the charter schools that will be paid to them directly from the state instead of going to the LEA first and then to the charter school. This will help avoid confusion about the distribution and allocation of that state funding. The local portion, though, and any federal dollars that the students might generate would come from the LEA to the charter school.
Okay, Representative Johnson, would you like to address that question now that the bill is for us?
I guess there's typically not any question in our budget in Knox County because we have those items lined out of what is going where and to what charter school. So I'm still kind of curious as what problem we're fixing.
You want to respond, Representative?
I'll do my best. Some LEAs have difficulty explaining that, or they just, they're trying to make it look like they're spending so much money on a charter school, and this is going to make it paid directly to the school from the state instead of going through the LEA. So the school system will not be spending that money.
Representative Kinsey?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I'm trying to understand the driver for this as well. So because I would think that, every year there's probably going out to the charters and some may come back. And also the local LEA needs to figure out how much of the local funds they need to spend per weighted child. I'm trying to see how that piece would look now that the LEA doesn't get all the money and can now say, okay, I got 30 students going out to school X and 45 going to school Y. So we need to pass on those particular funds. So how would the local LEA know how much to pay that particular student, that particular charter?
Representative Stevens?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The LEA would get the information and it would be allocated in their budget, but the money would just go directly from the state to the charter school.
Thank you.
Representative Bosso?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move previous question.
Okay, previous question has been called for. Any objection to that question? Seeing no objection, would the clerk please call the vote on House Bill 1163? Would the clerk please call the vote?
Mr. Chairman, you have 15 ayes and 4 nays.
House Bill 1163 does move out to finance. Thank you very much, Representative Stevens. That brings us to our next bill, which is 36, House Bill 902 by Representative Jones. You got a motion and a second. Representative Jones, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I request to roll this to the first calendar of next year.
Okay, the motions have been made to roll House Bill 902 to the first calendar of 2026. Without objection, roll to the first calendar. Thank you. 37, House Bill 1036 by Representative Baum. You got a motion and a second. And I do see an amendment you may want to address.
Thank you, Chairman White. It's Amendment 6529.
Got a motion and a second on 6529, which is amendment number 4 on your packet. It does rewrite the bill, so without objection, can we add this to the bill for proper discussion? Any objection to that? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say aye. Say no. The ayes have it. You are amended, and you may begin.
Thank you, Chairman White. This bill says that the State University Board of Trustees for our public universities have the ability to meet in an executive session in private when they're discussing the contracts and pay of senior administrators at the university. But any decision made or any action taken would need to be made in public, any vote.
Okay. That explanation, members, we're on House Bill 1036. Discussion. Representative Raper.
Call the question.
Question been called. Without objection, any objection? Seeing none. Without objection, Madam Clerk, please put the vote on the board for House Bill 1036. Madam Clerk, call the vote.
Mr. Chairman, you have 19 ayes and 0 nays.
House Bill 1036 moves out to calendar and rules. Thank you very much. Congratulations. I tried that last year and didn't work out for me. Okay, item number 38, House Bill 91 by Chairman Haston. That's the one that we took off notice, right? Correct? Okay, item 38, House Bill 91 has been taken off notice. Chairman Haston, we now are on item number 39, 130, House Bill 138. You are recognized. You're going to need a motion and a second. Got a motion and a second. And we do have an amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, Amendment 6196, it does not rewrite the bill.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. Could you go ahead and explain the amendments and then rewrite it? And
Yeah,
then
it just changes it to non-recurring funds.
non-recurring funds is the Amendment 6197. Members, any objection to adding this to the bill for full discussion? Hearing no objection, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Chairman Haston, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This bill establishes a CTE grant fund that can be used by public schools to purchase high-quality CTE curriculum. And with that, I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Okay, open up for discussion, members. Representative McKenzie?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a quick question to the sponsor. It looks like the amendment took it up to 6 million, but the fiscal note didn't follow it. So I just want to make sure, at least the copy that I have, that it's a great bill. I just want to make sure that we have it properly in the fiscal note as well.
Chairman Haston?
Thank you. That might be more of a question for legal or for the fiscal review, but that was a good catch. I hadn't noticed that. So go.
Would you like to ask legal?
Yeah, but the previous was 5. The previous.
Okay.
We're gonna let the geniuses in the finance committee figure that one out.
Okay. Sounds great. Any further discussion on House Bill 138? Any objection to the question? Hearing none, would the clerk please put the vote on the board? Madam Clerk, call the vote.
Mr. Chairman, you have 19 ayes and 0 nays.
Okay, House Bill 0138 moves out to finance. Chairman Haston, item number 40, House Bill 1002. You're recognized on that.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I do have an amendment 6084 that does rewrite the bill.
Got a motion and a second. The amendment does rewrite the bill. So is any objection to adding the amendment to the bill for proper discussion? Hearing no objection, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Okay, we've got the amendment on there. Let's go ahead and explain the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If an approved universal reading screener is already being used by an LEA, then a pre-K teacher may use the results of this screener for evaluation purposes. With that, I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Thank you. Let me ask the first one. I just want to make sure. I know we had this discussion years ago about the portfolio for kindergarten. Does this still give them the option to do that if the teacher wants that, or Chairman Haston?
Yes, that is correct. Right now, just for the universal screener, I'll just go ahead and read this. It's a progress monitoring system based on direct, frequent, and continuous student assessments. Some school systems already offer this, and some of them don't. Some of them focus primarily on just the portfolio model, which is fine. They can still use that. This just gives the teacher the ability to use the universal screener in lieu of the portfolio model if it is already available for use at their LEA.
Thank you for the explanation. I just remember years ago, we had a lot of controversy on the portfolios, but then some teachers called me and said, well, I really like it. We like to keep doing it. So great. Thank you. Members, anybody else have? Representative Johnson.
Is there still a group of universal screeners that folks are allowed to use in the state? Is it wide open? I know at one point there were 3 universal screeners. Are you saying any of those, or is it open to anything that's out there?
Representative Haston?
It's only the one that's already approved, so it wouldn't be wide open. It would be just the ones that's already on the pre-approved list.
Okay, thank you.
Further discussion, House Bill 11002. Oh, gotta go to Chairman Raper.
I'll call the question.
Question been called. Any objection to that question? Hearing no objection, then we will have the clerk put the vote on the board for House Bill 1002. Madam Clerk, call the vote.
Mr. Chairman, you have 19 ayes and 0 nays.
Thank you. House Bill 1002 moves out the calendar and rules. Brings us to item 41. We're on the Haston calendar. Item 41, HB 1003. Chairman Haston. You got a motion and a second.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I do have an amendment. I believe it's the only one that we're running that rewrites the bill. It's 4771.
That's, according to my notes, that is correct. It does rewrite the bill. So members, again, any objection to, since it rewrites the bill, adding it to the bill for proper discussion? Let me have a motion in a second. Okay, we have a motion in a second, 4771. Any objection to adding the amendment to the bill for proper discussion? Hearing no objection, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? The ayes have it. Okay, let's go ahead and get on the bill, Chairman Haston.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Recent regulatory changes imposed requirements on Category 3 schools that created issues with their online classes being in compliance. As a result, fully online self-paced educational programs are now required to comply with some things like arbitrary class size restrictions and school calendar days requirements. This bill just simply cleans up some of these unintended consequences. With that, I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Thank you very much for the explanation. I had the first question. So are we changing anything as I was reading this bill? As far as the EFS, ESA, as far as changing Category 3 schools, or not changing anything on that for that particular legislation?
No, it does not affect that.
Does not? Okay, thank you. Members, Representative Johnson?
And so does this bill remove the requirement that they administer some national standardized test? Is that
Chairman
correct?
Haston?
It includes the end of course testing.
But it doesn't require a standardized test, a national standardized test.
No.
Okay.
Representative Hakeem?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chairman Hasty, the vaccination piece, and are these young people allowed to participate in athletics with LEAs or other private, what do we call them? Public charter schools?
You ask a question. Chairman Haston?
I believe if they did participate in athletics, they would have to go through the same vaccination requirements as the TSSAA would require. But if they aren't, then they could, if they're just doing the online courses, they would not.
Okay. Well,
President Hakeem, follow up.
thank you, Mr. Chairman. I can just, well, maybe it's just in my mind, but I can see some young person, getting involved in athletics if we don't have a system set in place that they have to go through. So would those young people have to go through a process of getting the vaccination before they are actually able to participate in athletics?
Chairman Haston?
Thank you for the question. That would probably be a question that we'd have to check with the TSSAA on. But I would assume that if they require it, then they would have to.
Thank you very much.
Chairman Slater?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I just wanted to, for the sponsor, just wanted to clarify, in subcommittee, the amendment did not take out the requirement for the standardized testing. And so I just wanted to be sure, I don't know if we need to go to legal perhaps for an explanation of the amendment, but my understanding in subcommittee was that it did remove those first three requirements, but that it did not remove the requirement for a nationally normed reference test.
Legal, can you address that? Chairman Hastings, let me go to you first.
Yeah, and that may have been just a misunderstanding of the question. I thought that the question was this adding a requirement for standardized testing was the question I thought that I was answering earlier. So we might need to have some clarification from legal on that if I misunderstood that question.
We're out of session. Legal?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Katie Robertson, Office of Legal Services. Amendment 4771 does not include any language regarding assessments.
Chairman Slater?
So if there is a requirement for a nationally normed reference test now, that requirement is still in place. Is that correct? For legal.
For legal.
Yes, that's correct.
Thank you.
Any more questions of legal? Okay, we're back in session. So just for clarification, Chairman Slater, would you put in a capsule, make sure that everybody understands what you asked and then what we got the answer on?
Yes. So this bill originally took out 4 items. The 4th item was it took out the requirement for a nationally normed reference test. However, as amended, as explained by legal, it does not take out that requirement for a nationally normed reference test.
Thank you. And not to complicate things, but isn't that one of the requirements in the EFS? Yes. Okay, that's what I thought. Okay, Chairman Hastings?
I renew my motion.
Okay, the motion has been renewed. Any more questions? Representative Raper?
I call the question.
Question's been called. Any objection to that question? Hearing none, would the clerk please put the vote on the board for House Bill 1003? Everybody vote that wants to vote? Madam Clerk, take the vote.
Mr. Chairman, you have 18 ayes and 1 nay.
House Bill 1003 goes out to calendar and rules. Thank you, committee. Item number 42, House Bill 224. Do I understand that this has been rolled to the first calendar of 26?
That's correct.
Okay, well, so without objection, House Bill 224 rolled to the first calendar of 2026. Item 43, House Bill 1308. Hastings, Chairman Hastings, you carrying that?
Yes.
For administration. Got a motion and a second. Do you have any amendments on this bill? Okay. I'm looking at the order. Both do not rewrite the bill, Chairman. But I think has to be an order in which they're adopted.
Yes, the first one to go on would need to be 4063.
Got a motion and a second. Since it does not rewrite, could you, is there any objection to him explaining the amendment before we consider adding it to the bill? Here's no objection. Chairman Hastings, would you explain that amendment?
It has to do with performance or the accountability counting on students that didn't reach the 50% attendance threshold.
Okay, the questions have been called. Chairman speaking.
For the bill sponsor, we passed a bill last year about LEAs not being held accountable for students that showed up after December 31st to their LEA. Does this affect that at all in any way?
No, it works in conjunction with that.
Thank you.
Okay, members, we have that explanation of the amendment 4063 that doesn't rewrite the bill. Further questions from the committee on that amendment? Seeing none, and without objection, all those who, get my words right here. All those in favor of adding it to the bill, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. Okay, that has been added to your bill. Now we have another amendment. It's Amendment
5485.
Okay. You got a motion, second amendment. According to my script, it does not rewrite the bill. So without objection, could you explain that amendment before we consider adding it?
Yes, this just has to do with the order and the kind of the expedited nature of using paid parental leave. This is cleaning up a little bit of language where it was getting strung out in the course of weeks and months, and it just consolidates that.
Okay, with that explanation before us, any member have a question on that amendment before we consider adding it to the bill? Seeing none. So without objection, all those in favor of adding 5485 to the bill, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Okay. Without objection, we will roll those together on this bill, those amendments. And let's go back now to House Bill 1308. Chairman Haston.
I know with the way this bill has started, it's hard to believe that this is an efficiency bill, but this is an efficiency bill I was asked to carry by the administration that reduces some administrative burdens on schools. It makes some statutory changes that will improve student outcomes. I'll touch on 2 or 3 of the main points here. It will allow the department to administer any appropriated grant funds to support all forms of student tutoring supports, not just online tutoring supports. It increases flexibility for how districts can use stockpile and remote instruction days. And it also streamlines and consolidates some LEA reporting requirements. With that, I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Okay, there's the explanation before us, committee. We're open for questions. Representative who? Representative McKenzie.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I was talking with the department about there's a lot of good to this bill, and and I appreciate you. And it is an efficiency kind of cleaning up things bill. But in section 19, it talks about students being denied admission due to not having or unable to produce immunization records. It says only because they're in custody of the state. So they're wards of the state, they're in state custody. I guess my question is, will they get their immunizations? I didn't see it in here. Is there a provision that they within 60, 90, 120 days, whatever the time period is, that they either produce or receive the immunizations?
Chairman Haston.
I don't think that provision is necessarily outlined right now, but it might be something that we need to get with the department on to see if that's a timeline that we need to get in before it proceeds. And I don't know, the department might be on the list to be able to answer that question, but I think that they would be open to that.
We do have the department open on the list if they want to be weigh in. Would you like that, Chairman Haston?
Or he can give us a thumbs up if that's something that could be possible.
Okay, it looks like we got.
I do think that we've gotten clarification, Representative McKenzie, that we could add some stipulations in there to make sure that could happen.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay, let's go to Representative Johnson.
Thank you. And my questions were kind of along the same thing when it said homeless students or students who had been homeless who may not have access to their records or may not have the shots because they were homeless. What are we going to do to make sure that they get them or help them find their records if there are actually records? That's concerning to me. I feel like that before we go forward with this bill, that's information we should have.
Chairman Haston.
I think we can get that taken care of, but I also think that some of that is outlined in some of their rules that they have and not necessarily things that are in code already, but I will get that for you.
Let's go to Chairman Spicki.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chairman Haston, in the bill, it talks about remote instruction. An LEA may provide up to 2 days each semester instruction via remote instruction because it limits us to each semester. We just passed a bill with Representative Hardaway that allowed 4 days, but it did not specify per semester. Does this conflict with that at all?
Chairman Haston.
That was the one that was passed earlier today, right?
Yes, sir.
I do think that we're going to have to get those to match up at some point. If those right now are not aligned.
Come to me again, Mark.
Chairman Sapiki.
Mr. Chairman, can we go out of session so legal can chime in on that part, please?
Without objection, we're out of session. Legal, you may address.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Katie Robertson, Legal Services. This is providing, and Section 15 is remote instruction. Representative Hardaways was dealing with hybrid days of instruction. So the two do not conflict.
Chairman Sapiki.
So would that mean we have a total of 8 or a total of 4?
Legal.
I don't recall how many days were authorized in Representative Hardaway's, but his is for hybrid.
Four.
And then this is dealing with remote.
Chairman Sapiki.
Just to be clear, so an LEA would be allowed 4 hybrid days and 4 of these other days. But Chairman Hastings would be limited to 2 a semester. Is that correct?
Legal.
Yes, that's correct.
Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else have a question in legal? Okay, without objection, we're back in session. Chairman Hastings, you have a.
I renew my motion.
Okay, any further comments or questions on House Bill 1308? Representative Hakeem?
Just point of clarity. Does that have to be reconciled in this bill as far as the dates it start? Okay.
Yeah, what I'm understanding from legal, it does not. That is, okay, I got the heads up on that. Okay, anyone else? Question to the sponsor? Representative Butler? Barrett, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's okay, we look alike. To the sponsor, in the section regarding putting a cap on the number of students for a virtual school, is there a reason behind putting that cap in there? Can you explain that?
Chairman Hastings?
That one will probably have to go out of session for the department to get an answer on the cap on that.
Okay, one moment. Can you weigh in, Leah? Okay, if there's not an injection, I'm going to go out of session and invite the Department of Education up, the representative, and can you give us any clarity on that? Okay, with that, once you're seated, and we'll get your mic on, and just state your name, of course, for the record, and whoever wants to weigh in first, you just state your name and take off. Go.
Hi, thanks, Chairman. Emily Cornute, Director of Legislative Affairs, Department of Education. So it is our understanding that amendment with the drafting code 5485 actually removed that section from the bill, but happy to answer any questions.
Anyone have a, oh, there you go, Representative Barrett.
Thank you for the clarification. I did not see that expressly in the amendment that is removed, but because I do see references in the amendment to the reduction in enrollment, and that is going to cause an reduction in enrollment in the number of students enrolled in a virtual school, which is going to result in a reduction in TISA funding. So I'm just trying to reconcile those two things. If it's not included in the amendment anymore, why is it in the amendment where we're referencing a reduction in TISA funding?
Ms. Cornute.
Yes, sir. So happy to answer that question. So there is a section in the bill as it was originally drafted that does address the safety net allocation that is currently provided in the TISA funding formula. That specifies that if a district's average daily membership drops by 5%, then the district is entitled to safety net funding from one year over the next. What we saw happening is that some districts were closing these statewide virtual schools and were meeting that provision without actually having those kiddos in their physical district or in the school building. So we just wanted to clarify that that 5% safety net funding is for students that are physically present in the LEA, not virtual students.
Representative?
There's a specific reason I'm asking this question because I represent Lewis County, which has a statewide virtual school that's going to have probably close to 2,000 students next year. So my concern is, and I guess I'm asking a direct question now, is will this bill negatively affect the funding that Lewis County will receive from the state via TISA funding?
Ms. Cornu or Mr. Powers, either one.
Yes. So if Lewis County chose in the future to close those virtual schools and that resulted in a more than 5% reduction in their average daily membership, they would not be entitled to the 5% safety net funding in TISA, but it would not change anything other in their TISA allocation besides that if this bill were to pass.
One more follow. Yeah, go ahead and get your questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate your patience and committee. I know we were almost done and ready to vote on this before I called them up here. The last question is this. When we passed the Education Freedom Scholarship Act, we put a hold harmless in that bill that said that for disenrollment for any reason, there would not be a reduction in funding to a school system. Now you're telling me that if the school decides to shut down their virtual school and disenrolls these students, there will now be a reduction in funding.
You recognize Ms. Cornu?
Hi, I'm sorry for that confusion, sir. That would not be the case. They would still be entitled to the funding floor that was part of the Education Freedom Scholarship Act. The 5% safety net funding through the TISA formula is separate and quite frankly came before the funding floor was created. So that's a separate sort of provision. And so they would not lose funding if they were to disenroll students. They just would not receive the 5% funding. So
thank you for getting that on the record. I appreciate that.
Mr. Powers, did you have a comment?
Oh, Chairman, I wanted to kind of reiterate what my colleague said and maybe just add some clarity. That amendment that Ms. Cornu referenced should take out the cap, the virtual school enrollment cap. Representative Barrett, I wanted to clarify another important part of that language. It grandfathers in any schools that are already over that 1,500 cap. And the original intent of that was quite simply to clean up what I believe, if you look in the law and read yourself, one could argue is already the intent there is to cap virtual school student enrollment district-wide at 1,500 unless certain performance metrics are met. The whole intent there is to just make sure that we don't have a system where there's this growth without making sure that it's a comparable educational opportunity. And so that just wanted to kind of clarify what the original intent there was. But again, that amendment took out the cap, and that's why you have the bill that you see before you.
You're recognized.
Again, thank you, Chairman. And thank you for that. We talked about this in my office. The funds that Lewis County is generating through this virtual school are vital. They're building a brand new high school in Lewis County that's over $40 million for a county that only has 11,000 people in it. They couldn't do it without the funding that they're receiving from this virtual school. So they're defensive of that program, and I just want to make sure that we're not doing anything that would negatively impact them. So thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Do we have, who do we have next? Chairman Sapicki, you're recognized.
Committee, I apologize.
You're fine.
Third grade retention. What are we doing with third grade retention in this bill?
DOE.
Thank you, Chairman. And Chairman Sapicki, I believe you might be referencing the portion of the bill that would essentially reallocate about $7.8 million. And that would use those dollars to create a grant program that we would be able to give directly out to districts to support tutoring services that they currently have for those kids.
Thank you.
Chairman Sapicki.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else on the list? Okay, members, anybody else have a question? We're on House Bill 1308 by Chairman Haston. Seeing none, Representative Raper? We are back in session. Thank you. Now, Chairman Raper. Okay. Thank you very much. Okay, any objection to the question being called? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, please put the vote on the board. Where does this go? Madam Clerk, call the vote.
Mr. Chairman, you have 18 ayes and 1 nay.
Okay, House Bill 1308 moves out to calendar and rules. Let's move on over now to item number 44, House Bill 87 by Chairman Slater. You got a motion and a second, Chairman Slater. Do you have any amendments?
Yes, an amendment that rewrites the bill, Amendment 5326.
You got a motion and a second. It's the one you're going with. Rewrites the bill. Any objection to go ahead and add the amendment to the bill for proper discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Amendment 5326 is added to your bill. Go ahead and explain your bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. House Bill 87 as amended references families who choose to homeschool. It enacts the Learning Pod Protection Act, which does three things. Number one, first of all, it authorizes parents to voluntarily participate in learning pods, and which may sound like a little bit of a new term. Homeschool families often call these cooperatives, sometimes call them micro schools, but this would put it in legislation that these are termed learning pods, and that is defined in the bill. Secondly, it prohibits the state, local governments, and local in LEAs from regulating or controlling a learning pod. And then lastly, it establishes that a child who participates in a learning pod satisfies the compulsory school attendance requirements. And with that, I stand ready for questions.
Okay, thank you for that explanation, Chairman Slater. Members, questions on to Chairman Slater. Representative Johnson, you're recognized.
I guess my question would be, is this just an addition and to groups that want to call themselves learning pods, but it doesn't affect all the other homeschool folks out there?
Chairman Slater.
Thank you, and thank you for that question. This simply codifies what many homeschool families are already doing, and then it does define what a learning pod is. A family could still participate in something called a co-op, but for legislative purposes, it would be considered a learning pod, and it does those three things that I described.
Representative Johnson.
Thank you.
Further discussion. Chairman Raper. He's called the question. Okay, any objection to the question? Hearing none. We are on House Bill 87. Madam Clerk, please call the vote. Please call the vote, Madam Clerk.
Mr. Chairman, you have 18 ayes, 0 nays, and 1 present not voting.
Okay, House Bill 87 moves out of calendar and rules. Chairman Slater, you also have item number 45, House Bill 380. You got a motion and a second.
Second.
Let's get the bill in order to see any amendments that you need to consider.
Yes, Amendment 6829, and that does rewrite the bill.
Motion.
6829 is amendment, does rewrite the bill. So any objection to add the amendment to the bill for a full discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Okay, go ahead and explain your bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And committee members, this takes a first step in correcting an issue that is taking place, especially as it relates to virtual schools. Right now, there is not a clear-cut pathway for textbooks and instructional materials to be approved in the state. And so there's been some inconsistency from one virtual school to another. We've worked for quite some time within the past few weeks to try to come to a solution. This is what I would term kind of a temporary solution, giving the Textbook and Instructional Materials Commission in consultation with the Department of Education and the State Board to come up with a plan for how virtual school materials are approved. And the reason that it's a difficulty is because virtual schools don't use traditional textbooks in what we would consider traditional instructional materials. And so what this does is that it will give the Textbook and Instructional Materials Commission until January 1st of 2027 to come up with a plan for an approval process. And with that, I stand ready for questions.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that explanation because I had gotten some calls and I appreciate you working with the Texas Commission and others and giving a compromise as far as how to move forward on this. Thank you, members. Anyone else have a question? Representative McKenzie.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I'm trying to understand where you're taking us, because I guess I'm incorrect if I would say that all textbooks have to be approved or come through our commission. That would be an incorrect statement.
Chairman Slater.
That is not an incorrect statement. Other than waivers, there is a waiver process, and then there's some lack of clarity as far as how that waiver process works. Currently, what's taking place in this is in my district in Sumner County. They were under the understanding that the process was set, and they were following that process, which, as you know, is a very extensive process, and it's divided into subject areas as well with a rotation. That's very difficult for virtual schools to accomplish because they have multiple grades and multiple subjects. Some districts were under the impression that there is a different waiver process. What we're working to do, and I think that this goes to your question and perhaps your concern. We are working to make sure that there is a proper approval process and that all materials in all virtual schools are approved by the Textbook and Instructional Materials Commission.
Thank you.
That satisfy you?
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, anyone else have a question? Representative Johnson, you recognize?
Yes, thank you. And I have a little confusion here myself, so I want to clear up. I remember when we got the first online school statewide online school in Tennessee, and it was called a charter school. So my understanding of charter schools is they use the same materials that are approved by our state board as our regular public schools do. So do we have statewide online schools that are not charters? Are they privates? What are they considered?
Chairman Slater.
Thank you, and that's a good question. I can't speak to every single virtual school. I can speak to some of the virtual schools. We do have some statewide virtual schools, which we had discussed in a previous bill. There are also counties that operate virtual schools, especially in a smaller population for students who need an alternative type of education. Maybe temporarily, maybe permanently as well. The reason that you may be confused is the same reason that I'm confused, is because districts are confused in this matter as well. And it has to do with the waiver process. There is confusion as it relates to the waiver process. My intent of this legislation, after working with the Textbook Commission, and speaking with virtual schools is to make sure that the textbook commission has an opportunity to put together a process that will come before the legislative body and will put into place something that is not confusing, something that will take into account the fact that virtual schools don't use often traditional textbooks and instructional materials, and the fact that they serve a population of multi-grades and multi-subjects. And so that's the intent here. And once again, I would say that this is simply a temporary pause so that everybody can continue to operate, can continue to provide instruction. Some of the, for example, my district has crosswalked every single material that they use with the state standards. My understanding is that other districts are doing the same thing. I'm not sure that every district is being that intentional about it. And that's the reason, that's the issue that we're trying to correct.
Representative Johnson.
Okay, thank you. I guess it's a little disturbing that that's what we were told when this initial online school started, that they would be utilizing the same books and series because our series are online as well, that all the schools use. And I know there are locals, and I know for a fact that the local online schools, they definitely utilize the same materials as their local LEA uses. So I guess it's a little disturbing to find that that might not be the case across the board. But thank you for clearing that up.
Thank you. I have one question, and I may be missing what we're doing. Of course, LEAs, we passed legislation a couple of years ago where an LEA can set up a virtual school for their LEA, not a charter, and they can. So that is correct, right?
That is correct, yes.
Okay.
And this would go to all virtual schools. And of course, not all virtual schools are charter schools. Yeah, this would bring about a uniform process.
Thank you. Further discussion on House Bill 380. See no other further discussion. Chairman Raper.
Yes, for once, I'm not calling the question. I had, from the beginning, I had a concern about this, and it was what happens if federal funding is eliminated. I just want to point out to everybody in the amendment, item 5, that it completely addresses that situation. So thank you.
Double check. Are you on House Bill 95846 or on this particular bill, House Bill 380? Okay. I'm going to come back to you on the next bill on that. But thank you very much. So I give you one more chance, Representative Chairman Raper. You're through. Okay. Question's been called on the bill by Representative Reedy. Any objection to the question? I see or hear none. So without any objection, would the clerk put the vote on the board? Madam Clerk, take the roll, take the vote.
Mr. Chairman, you have 18 ayes, 0 nays, 1 present not voting.
Thank you. House Bill 380 does move out to calendar and rules. Let's see where we are. Okay, item number 46, House Bill 958 by Chairman Slater. You got a motion and a second. Get your bill in order.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And we have Amendment 6785 on this bill. It does rewrite the bill.
Okay, not 4076, 6785.
That is correct. 6785.
6785. That was an untimely filed amendment. I got a motion to consider. Any objection? Okay, without objection, we will consider Amendment 6785 that was untimely filed. Okay, any objection? Said no objection. All those in favor of adding 6785 to the bill for proper discussion? Do I have a motion and a second on that? Motion. And motion second. Any objection to adding it to the bill? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? The ayes have it. Okay, you have 6785 on your bill, Chairman Slater.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for committee for taking up that untimely filed amendment. The only reason it was untimely filed is that there was some language that was caught somewhat at the last minute in regard to per diem in how that is done when it comes to the members of this particular task force. So that's the reason that it was untimely filed. What this bill does is amended is it creates a federal education deregulation cooperation task force to prepare Tennessee for potential changes to the U.S. Department of Education. It's a 7-member task force, which is outlined in the bill. With that, I stand ready for any questions.
Okay, Representative McKenzie, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My first question is, why is this bill before us?
Chairman Slater.
Thank you. And that's an excellent question because we should always ask that question. Why is the bill in front of us? It's no surprise that there has been some discussion at the federal level to change perhaps significantly the federal Department of Education. With those changes could come very rapidly. They may come within the months between this year in this General Assembly and when we gavel in again next year. What this task force is tasked with doing is to keeping up with what changes may occur at the federal level and make sure that we are prepared as a legislative body, as policymakers in education, when we gavel back in to continue to serve our students across the state of Tennessee. So that's the purpose for this. That's the purpose for setting up this task force.
Follow up, Representative McKenzie.
Thank you. So I'm assuming then that the scope, and I don't see with this within the framework of your bill, the scope of this conversation that these people are going to have, this theoretical conversation that they're going to have, is going to be limited to things like free lunch, how we're educating our kids with disability, those things, and it's a small amount that our federal government is funding, the Title I, Title IX type of thing. So that's the full scope of what this committee, and if it's so, if it's only dealing with what's coming down from our federal government, then shouldn't this team have a clear charter that they are to follow and not get into things like, textbooks and everything else that they, if the world's their oyster, they'll probably go into some areas that doesn't apply. So, so my bottom line question is, shouldn't this task force be limited to the things that our federal government does for us as taxpayers?
Chairman Slater.
Thank you. And you are right on point. And I agree with you completely. I would clarify one item. You mentioned special education, students with disabilities. That would be in the discussion because that is currently part of what the federal Department of Education does. Free and reduced lunch would not. And the reason that it would not is because that is through the Department of Agriculture at the federal level. So this task force is limited to what the federal Department of Education does. And I'll also point out to you as well that there are 5 things that the task force will be accomplishing. First of all, identifying all federal funding for K-12 education. Secondly, identifying federal requirements for receiving funds. Thirdly, identifying state resources needed to receive federal funds. Fourth, identifying the number of employment positions funded by federal funds. So those are 4 identifying tasks that this group would do. And then fifthly, consider whether programs or resources provided by federal funds should be continued. A report would be generated, and based on the legislation, it's mandated that a report is generated, and that report then would come to the legislative body for consideration. So number 5 would have to have legislative approval.
Representative Johnson?
Yes, I guess what I'm hearing in the things that you just named, that information's already available at the department. I guess what my question is before we know exactly what they're deregulating, that's going to determine who we need on the committee and what the makeup of the committee is. Sure, we know that there will be special education issues and Title I issues and career technical education is also included in that funding. But the reality is if they're to do away with the department, there's no guarantee that a penny will come to Tennessee if they do that. So I feel like we're putting the cart before the horse. The information you listed, we already have in our own records currently, but I'm concerned about putting together a group before exactly what we know what the deregulation is specifically.
Slater?
Thank you. And that's exactly the purpose of this task force, is we don't know what is going to happen at the federal level. So it's incumbent upon us as policymakers, as the legislative body, to be certain that we keep up with what changes at the federal level might affect students at the state level and at the local level. So I think that we have the right individuals on this task force. It is the legislative body. It's the policymakers. It's and as you'll see, some of the members that are on here are prescribed, but then the others are then appointed by the speakers of both houses. So I believe that we have the right people appointed to this committee. And I think that it's going to be very timely. I think that we would be caught flat-footed if we come in here in January and there have been items that have been changed at the federal level, and we're not well prepared as a legislative body.
Follow up on that? You're good? Okay.
Quickly, I guess what I would say,
Representative Johnson.
I guess what I would say is that we're going to be caught flat-footed if the funding's not there, and we'll have to have a special session to allocate funding, I would imagine. So I'm not sure what difference that committee will make.
Chairman Slater, you address that?
Well, once again, you are correct that we don't know what the federal government is going to do as it relates to funding. There's been some indication by the administration that the federal administration, that funds may come to the states in block grants. Well, we certainly, as a legislative body, don't want to be slow about enacting legislation that would be able to draw down those block grants. So once again, I think that this is very important for us to continue to work in the subsequent months as we prepare for a new legislative year.
Representative Glenn, you want to weigh in? You're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And just real quick, sponsor, I actually had the pleasure of sitting on a task force about a year and a half ago that actually did this exact thing. Have you had an opportunity to look at those results from that task force that we did that looked at what would happen if we rejected federal funds? I mean, it's the same thing, really.
Chairman Slater?
Well, yes, I have, Representative Glenn. I served on that working group. Both you and I were appointed by the Speaker of the House. And you'll remember that the Senate report and the House report was not the same. There were two items, though, that were the same in both of the reports. One of those was that any guidance that came from the federal department to the state department then would be passed along to the legislative body. That we enacted last year. The second item, and of course, there was a different administration at the time, federal administration. The second item is that we would put together guidance as it relates to what it would look like if there was a reduction in federal funding or that federal funding went away. Those were the two things. So this simply is following up on the work that you and I did along with members from the other side as well.
Thank you. Chairman Raper?
I'll call the question.
Okay, House Bill 958. The question's been called. Any objection to that question? Hearing no objection, I'm going to ask the clerk to put the vote on the board for House Bill 958. Madam Clerk, take the vote.
Mr. Chairman, you have 14 ayes, 3 nays, and 1 present not voting.
Thank you. House Bill 958 moves out to finance. That brings us committee. We're moving right along. We're now on item number 47, House Bill 25. Chairman Sapicki. The request has been made to roll out House Bill 25 to the hill of the calendar. That brings us to item number 48, 665. Chairman Sapicki.
Second.
You got a motion and a second.
We have an amendment, Mr. Chairman, 006156.
That is correct. We got a motion. We have a second. It does rewrite the bill. Any objection to adding it to the bill for proper discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, the amendment is on your bill, Chairman Speaker.
Thank you, members. This is the bill that came from the Education Administration Committee in regards to our military and recruiting. I'll read you the summary of the bill real quick. Requires a public senior high school to provide access to student directory information to official recruiting representatives of the armed forces of this state and the United States if the school provides such information to other persons or groups that make students aware of occupational or educational options. It also requires each public senior high school to provide official recruiting representatives of the armed forces of this state and the United States access to the public senior high school, number one, at least once a month during student lunch periods for the purpose of informing students of educational and career opportunities available in the military, and number two, at least once every other month in which the school is in its session to provide additional information about the armed forces to students who have expressed interest in the armed forces and who would like more information. That's what the amendment does in the bill. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, members, we have House Bill 665 explained to us before us. Questions on 665 to the sponsor. Representative Johnson.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. And I'm just going back to my days at teaching high school. And I know we had someone here talking about the ASVAB. We gave the ASVAB when I was teaching. We gave it a lot. And when we had students who did really well on the ASVAB test, sometimes they felt hounded because they were spending their entire lunch period running from folks who were really interested in talking to them. So I understand what you're doing here and I appreciate it, but also, I'm thinking about students who aren't interested in going that direction and their privacy being interrupted on occasion. I think you said once a month. Is that correct?
Chairman.
During lunchtime, is that correct, the question?
Yeah, but did you say once a month during lunchtime?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I think that we can live with once a month, but just something I recall from being in a high school. So anyway, that's my only concern. Thank you.
Further discussion on House Bill 665. Question been called. Any objection to that question? Hearing no objection, I'm going to ask the clerk to put the vote on the board for 665. Madam Clerk, take the vote.
Mr. Chairman, you have 18 ayes, 0 nays, and 1 present not voting.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. House Bill 665 moves out of the calendar and rules. Okay, committee brings us to item 49 on the calendar, House Bill 708. Chairman Sapicki,
Motion.
you got a motion and you got a second. I see no amendments. It looks like you got a clean bill.
Yes, sir.
You may begin.
Thank you. This bill came from the State Board of Education. Let me read you exactly what the bill does. Current TCA code, the chair of the State Board of Education or the chair's designee may issue subpoenas for the appearance of persons or the production of items, including but not limited to documents, videos, and audio recordings that the chair or the chair's designee considers material or relevant to an investigation being conducted by the State Board within or outside of this state pursuant to the State Board's authority to revoke, suspend, refuse to issue or renew a license or formally reprimand a licensed educator. This bill now expands the subpoena power of the State Board of Education to also include accountability hearings conducted by the State Board for any local education agency operating a public school or any public charter school receiving a D or F letter grade as authorized by TCA code 493-112C. That's what the bill does, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, House Bill 708 by Chairman Sapicki. Questions to the sponsor, Representative McKenzie.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And just trying to get an understanding of what that accountability hearing will look like. Is there a standard format, or they're going to have to talk about, and I figure they got to talk about a plan to improve, but what would that hearing look like? And then what metrics are we taking from that particular hearing?
Chairman?
That question would be outside the scope of this bill. However, we do have a representative from the State Board that can answer that question if you so desire.
Yeah, well, if unless you can just is the term accountability hearing set somewhere in law? I guess maybe. If not, then I'd like to hear from them.
Yes, it is.
Chairman.
Yes, it is, Representative McKenzie.
Thank you, man. I'm good.
Okay. Further discussion, questions on House Bill 708? Question been called. Any objection to that question? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, please put the vote on the board. Madam Clerk, take the vote.
Mr. Chairman, you have 18 ayes and 1 nay.
Thank you, Clerk. House Bill 708 moves out to the calendar and rules. Item number 50, House Bill 1193. Chairman Sapicki, you're recognized.
Second.
You got a motion and a second.
Have an amendment, Mr. Chairman.
You do have an amendment, and it is
3650.
3650 rewrites the bill. You got a motion, second amendment. Any objection to adding it to the bill for proper discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it. Okay, the bill is properly amended. Go ahead, Chairman Spickey.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This coincides with the mathematics study we did last year. This is the next step. It requires the Department of Education to conduct a landscape analysis of teacher evaluation practices in this state and other states. Requires the Department of Education to convene a teacher evaluation advisory committee composed of experienced educators in the state and other experts to review current teacher evaluation practices in the state. It authorizes the committee to conduct meetings in a virtual setting, requires the committee to report its findings and recommendations to the Department of Education, at which time the committee ceases to exist. It requires the Department of Education to present the findings of the teacher evaluation advisory committee and the landscape analysis to the State Board of Education. Requires the Department of Education and the State Board of Education to provide a final report and any recommendations to certain committees of the General Assembly by January 31st of 2026. That's what the bill does, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, House Bill 1193, explanation, questions of the sponsor. Question been called. Any objection to that question? I see no objection. Madam Clerk, put the vote on the board. House Bill 1193, members.
We got Harris's bill.
Madam Clerk, take the vote. Where's it go?
Mr. Chairman, you have 19 ayes and 0 nays.
Thank you. House Bill 1193 goes to calendar and rules. That brings, we need to go back and hit item 30 that Chairman Sapiki, I believe you're carrying that
Yes,
for Representative Harris while he is out.
Yes, sir.
You got a motion and a second. Members, we're on item number 30, House Bill 1383. Chairman Sapiki.
Mr. Chairman, I think that we had an issue with the amendment, and I had to file it, so it would be untimely filed now. A motion to consider amendment number 5540.
Have a motion to consider 5540. Any, Representative King, do you have a question about that on the amendment? If it's okay with the committee, we'll go ahead and got a motion to consider. Any objection to that motion? Hearing none. We're all in favor of that. Okay, we have the motion to consider it. Do I have a motion second on that?
Yes.
Okay, so we're now back on that. So without objection, we're going to add House Amendment 5540 to the bill. Any objection to that? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. So that amendment is on the bill now, Chairman.
Would you like me to present the bill first and take the question? So, Mr. Chairman.
Chairman Speaker, you're recognized.
Okay. Members, Representative Harris could not be here today, and we all know we're trying to get out of here. So out of respect for him, I'm going to try to present this bill the best way I can. So if I do it awkwardly, please have mercy on me and Representative Harris. I'm going to read what he wrote me, if that's okay, Mr. Chairman.
You're recognized.
This bill has largely gained bipartisan support. The local legislative body serves as the funding body for many of our county schools, so aligning the elections only makes sense and saves taxpayer money. Since proposing the legislation, I have added an amendment, 5540, which we just did, that allows a local legislative body for a county that has adopted a charter form of government to require the following. Require that the school board election be at the same time as the regular county election, which means that at the same time that the county mayor, the county commission, the county clerks, the trustee, the assessor, and all other county positions are holding elections. The school board elections would also take place. In doing so, this saves counties money by not having as many elections. Shelby County, for example, in August of 2024, held elections and had to pay for an election last year for a ballot with only 5 of the school board members and no other county positions. If that election had been aligned with a regular county elections, the county would have saved millions of dollars and more voters would have turned out to vote. Secondly, this legislation would require that school board elections be on the same election cycle as the county commission. If a county commission has elections every 4 years, the school board would have elections every 4 years. If a county commission has a successive election, so will the school board. And lastly, school board members must have the same term limits as the county commission. If a county commission has 2 terms as a term limit, so will the school board. If the county commission has no term limits, the school board would not have any term limits. I ask for a favorable vote on House Bill 1383. I stand ready to try to answer questions.
Thank you, Chairman Sapiki. Representative Harris will be proud of your presentation. I'm going to go to
Hadn't passed yet.
Representative McKenzie.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And you know, and I've had issues with this particular bill, but I'm trying to find where the amendment that we just approved that untimely filed make this a Shelby County only, because, and I'll say why. Knox County, we are a charter form of government, but we're doing fine where we are. We actually had this particular thing legislated, Supreme Court decision. So we're happy with county commissions having term limits, but our school board not, like the rest of the state, other than the ones with charter forms of government. So I thought something in the amendment was going to make sure that this was a Shelby County only thing. So I'm trying to read where that is.
Chairman speaking.
So I believe you're correct. In the amendment, it says, notwithstanding another law to the contrary, a local legislative body for a county that has adopted a charter form of government may require.
Okay, thank you.
May require.
Thank
so
you.
If Knox County does not want to do it, there you go.
Thank
Representative Mayberry?
I just want to say that I'm a school board member. I support this bill. I think it's good to bring attention to school board elections and aligning it to when a large body of local government is being elected. That is a good thing. Thank you.
I'm supposed to read one more thing.
Chairman, so you want to get one thing in before I go to Representative Stevens?
I do. He asked, Representative Harris asked me to let you know this. In 2022, there were 4 seats up for the school board in 2022 when the county was having their government races. One district member had to, there were 10,000 votes. Another district were 11,000. Another district were 9, and another district were 8. In the off year, when the 5 ran, it was 4,000, 4,000, 5,000, 6,000, and 3,000. So a remarkable drop off in the amount of people that were coming to vote for those off year school board members. I think that's what he's trying to rectify.
You have follow-up, Representative?
Yeah, and just to echo that, that's exactly what happens. I know in Clarksville, Montgomery, where the year I ran was very high at voting. The opposite year, very low voting. So I just think that such an important position within our local governments. I think it's very good to get more attention on. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Stevens.
It's going to come to you, Katie.
You're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I had a question about how this would work in Section A, and I want to be sure that we're getting this exactly right. At some point, some of the school board members would have to have a 2-year term to get everybody on the same cycle. And I just wanted to be sure that under the way this is worded, that the county commission would have the authority to change the terms for the next election cycle to 2 years so that everybody will get on the same 4-year cycle.
Chairman speaking.
Mr. Chairman, I think legal can handle that answer.
Without objection, we're out of session. Legal, could you address that?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Katie Robertson, Office of Legal Services. The bill as amended provides that a local legislative body for a county that has adopted a charter form of government may require the things listed. And then it also provides that in those actions, it does not vacate or abridge a term of office for a member on a county board of education. So when they were aligning, they would not be able to vacate or abridge that term of office, but they would be allowed to extend the terms of office in order to align them with the requirements that they enact.
Representative Stevens.
So they would be allowed to extend the terms of the people that are currently in there, or they would be able to create a 2-year term. So with they all get on a 4-year term at the next election cycle.
Legal.
It would have to, any extension or reduction of a term would have to happen after an election cycle upon becoming law of this amendment.
Go ahead, you're recognized again.
So my exact question is, can the county commission at the next election create a 2-year term for the 5 that are up or the 4 that are up to get everybody on the same cycle?
Yes, they could if they enact this requirement.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. We now go to Representative Reeves. Oh, we're back in session. Representative Reeves.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I am got a little whiplash on this bill because it seemed like it went one way and then came back another, and maybe I've just missed some of that back and forth. We've got in Williamson County, we've got staggered school board and yet 24 county commissioner seats. I'd almost rather do the opposite and have half of our county commission elected in off years, so that way there's not big swings in our local government, and you've got people with experience. But with that, I'm probably a no on this unless I just understand it a little bit better. But I just wanted to get that out.
Chairman.
I'm from the county you represent. This does not affect them.
Okay, well that's helpful.
Right now it would be limited just to 2 counties in the state of Tennessee, Shelby and Knox. But those county commissions would have to adopt this piece of legislation. And in Williamson County, if hypothetically you were included, the county commission would have to adopt it.
You follow up?
Yeah, I'm just going to thank the representative behind me. Thank you.
I'm winging it.
Thank you. Representative Johnson, you have a question?
No, I'm good.
You're good?
Thank you.
Representative Oso?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move previous question.
Thank you.
Okay, we're on House Bill A second. Yeah, House Bill 1383, item number 30. Question's been called. Any objection to that question? Seeing none, that objection, Madam Clerk, put the vote on the board. Take the vote, Madam Clerk.
Mr. Chairman, you have 16 ayes, 1 nay, 2 present not voting.
Thank you. House Bill 1383 does move out to calendar and rules. That brings us back to item number 50, House Bill, excuse me. That's me. Okay. Okay, let me give the gavel to, I've got a couple committee. Let me give the gavel to Chairman Sapicki.
Members, House Bill 401 by Chairman White. Do I have a motion? Have a motion and a second. Chairman White, do you have an amendment on this bill?
Yeah. 5473.
It does rewrite the bill. Members, do I have a motion on amendment? We have a motion and a second on House Bill 5473. Without an objection, we will add this to the bill. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. Ayes have it. Chairman White, you are in the proper position to present your bill.
Thank you, Chairman and committee. Members, what I'm trying to do with this particular bill, and of course, it does have a fiscal note I have to address, but during the summer, several LEAs came to me, and I did not know this, but we're not talking about volunteer pre-K, but in our pre-K programs, federal law requires the students that have special needs, if they, at 3 years old and 4 years old, they can come, they are by law required, they can have to be administered to by the local LEA. But there are no funding from the federal government for that, nor is there really any state funding. As we know, TISA formula doesn't kick in until kindergarten. So what our LEAs are having to do by law is they are having to fund the this pre-K funding for SPED needs out of their TISA budget. In many of the districts I represent back home, there's Lakeland and Germantown. It's about $800,000 a year that has to come right out of their TISA funds. And so we're just looking for money. I've been talking to the administration, and the administration is looking at this, see if we can get any portion of that to help our LEAs fund this SPED required pre-K funding. And that's the gist of the bill.
Members heard an explanation of the bill. Any questions on the bill? Not seeing any. Okay, to call the question. Madam Clerk, will you take the vote? Please vote. Madam Clerk, take the vote.
Mr. Chairman, you have 19 ayes and 0 nays.
House Bill 401 moves off the finance. 51, 52. Next up is House Bill 662 by Chairman White. Chairman White, you're recognized. You have a motion and a second.
Yes, Chairman, I would like to roll House Bill 662 to one space before the heel of the calendar.
Without objection, done. Okay, next up is House Bill 54, right? House Bill 1373 by Chairman White. Do I have a motion? Have a motion and a second. Chairman White, do you have an amendment?
Let's see here. No amendment.
Okay, you are clean. Go ahead and present your bill, sir.
Okay, members, what this particular bill does, I carried this a couple of years ago. It's the brainchild of Senator Farrell Hale. We created a school turnaround pilot program for priority schools that is administered by the Department of Education. Anyway, we did it for a pilot program, and that is scheduled to end in the 2024. Well, it was scheduled to conclude at the end of 2024-2025 school year. But we're moving it through this bill to a permanent school turnaround program. It was originally for up to five schools. This bill extends it to 15. And this gets where our LEAs, if they have schools that need intervention through a turnaround pilot program, the funds in which to extend the school turnaround for one of their priority schools in their district. And with that, I believe that's the gist of the bill.
Members, you have an explanation on the bill. Any questions for the bill sponsor? Seeing none, We're ready to take the vote without objection. Madam Clerk, take the vote, please. Please vote. Representative Johnson. Madam Clerk, take the vote.
Mr. Chairman, you have 19 ayes and 0 nays.
A majority of the vote. House Bill 1373 moves off to finance. Members, we are back on the bill that was rolled one spot before the heel. It is House Bill 662 by Chairman White. Do I have a motion? Motion and a second. Chairman White, do you have an amendment?
Let's see. Amendment 4897.
4897. Yes, it does. Does that rewrite the bill?
It does.
It does rewrite the bill. We have a motion on House Amendment, on Amendment 4897. We have a motion and a second without objection. We'll go ahead and add this to the bill. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. No. Ayes have it. Okay, let's see here now.
We do have
some other ones. Okay, Representative McKenzie, I think you're up. We have an amendment number 6063. Do you wish to run that amendment?
Yes, I do.
Does it rewrite the bill?
No, it doesn't.
Okay, members, I need a motion and a second on House Bill, on Amendment 6063. We have a motion and a second. Representative McKenzie, will you please present your amendment, please?
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. This amendment, it does a simple thing, and it's, it's really in the spirit of how I think Robert's rules, Mason rules, how county commissions and our body, quite frankly, behaves. And with something really substantive like this, like, really taking over an LEA by the local body, the way this bill is written, it's a simple majority. And what this amendment does is make it a 2/3 majority. That it's just a simple change to make it a 2/3 of that legislative body.
Members, you've heard the explanation from the sponsor of the amendment. Are there any questions to the sponsor? I'm sorry, Chairman White.
Yes, thank you very much. And thank you, Reverend McKenzie. 6063. This is a bill that I've been dealing with for a while. It's really a local issue for me. And so I appreciate the amendment, but I would like to consider an unfriendly amendment and reject it this time.
So you have a unfavorable recommendation from the sponsor of the bill on the amendment. Any other discussion? On the amendment. Questions being called on the amendment without objection. We will go ahead and vote on this. A yes vote puts the amendment on the bill. A no vote denies it. Madam Clerk, take the vote. Oop. I can? Okay. Well, we can do a voice vote. All those in favor of adopting Amendment 60.
Why don't we just put it on the board?
Okay, we're going to leave it on the board. Yes vote adds it. No vote does not. See here. Madam Clerk, take the vote.
Mr. Chairman, you have 4 ayes and 15 nay.
Amendment number 6063 has been declined. Next up, Representative McKenzie, you have another amendment. I believe it's 6366. Is that correct? Is that correct, sir? You recognize.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. At this point, the folks that brought me this amendment's not wanting to run that.
Okay.
So I will withdraw that amendment.
Amendment 6366 has been withdrawn. There's 5916. I need to run that. Hold on.
6835.
Is that timely filed? Members, we have another amendment. It's by Chairman White.
I got it here.
By Chairman White, it's 6835. We have a motion and a second. Does it rewrite the bill, Mr. Chairman?
No, it does not.
It does not. Can you give us a brief explanation for the committee?
Okay, yes. I just get my paper here. All we did on the very first page of the bill in section yeah. 1 second. We just changed some wording. We took out one of the requirements for the bill to be enacted. 30% or more of the schools managed to have a D or an F letter grade. Then 25% of the more of the students enrolled in the LEA are chronically absent, And then the third is the local legislative body for the county in which the LEA is located approves by majority of the vote a resolution expressing the local legislative body has no confidence in the local board. And so we took out one of the requirements and just made that, and then we changed it from or to and. So you have to hit all three of these in order to be considered, which made it more of a local bill.
Members, you heard an explanation on the bill. Any objection to adding this to the bill? Representative Johnson, go ahead.
So why was that last one, the bottom 5% of school districts statewide, why was that removed?
Representative White, Chairman White.
Thank you. Thank you. That way we want to restrict it more. Like I say, I've been working on this for a couple of years, and we just want to restrict it to our local community where it doesn't really bring in anybody else in. I'll let if anybody else has an issue with their LEA, then they can address it in their own way, in their own fashion.
Answer your question? Okay. Members, without seeing any objection, we're going to vote to add this to the bill. All those in favor of adding Amendment 6835 to the bill, say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. No. Ayes have it. If we will roll those all into one bill as it moves forward, without objection. Members, we are on the bill as amended, House Bill 662 by Chairman White. Chairman White, you're recognized.
Thank you. Members, if you bear with me, let me just explain the reasoning that I'm working on this bill. Number one, I love my community. I've lived in Memphis since 1966. We got a great community. But to have a great community, you have to have a strong K through 12 system. And so, and overwhelmingly, some things have happened this past fall where overwhelmingly the community came to me and says, would you please address this? We've had some issues with the school board. We've had 4 superintendents in about 4 years. And so reason I'm bringing this, I want to bring this to the attention of the committee as to why. The state of Tennessee appropriates $6.8 billion a year in K through 12 education. 6.8 billion. Let's just round it off to 7 billion for conversation's sake. Even though we are the largest district in the state, about 110,000 students, we're one of 147 districts. We receive $900 million annually just from the state for our LEA. Now, if you want to round that off, that's like we get $1 out of every $7 out of the total budget, which means the other 146 districts that y'all represent, you split the other $6. I don't think that's, if we're going to continue down this road, I appreciate all the money we can get for our community. But the reason I'm bringing this up is one reason we get more is because one of the formulas for the TISTA thing is economically disadvantaged students do receive a heavier weight. Let me give you a few facts. Memphis has 130,000 adults without a high school diploma. Now, when you don't have a high school diploma, your annual income is very hard to make a great living. Your annual income is about $10,000 to $15,000 average income. I was told by a former superintendent that 40% of the young people who attend Memphis Shelby County schools comes from parents who do not have a high school education. Therefore, that's why we have a lot of economically disadvantaged students drawing down more money. If we don't address the issue moving forward, we have 110,000. That means right at 8,000 a year graduate or have dropped out in each class as they move through the process of those 12, 13 years. So my question is, why have so many dropped out? And it continues to affect our community. It has affected our community with youth crime in the past couple of years. And so we have a lot of people really trying to lead down there, but our K through 12 system is not meeting the mark. Our proficiency standards in the last time is 1 out of 5 of the students of these 110,000, only 1 out of 5 are proficient in math, or 17%. Only 1 out of 4 are proficient in reading, or 23%. And so we also have over $1 billion in deferred maintenance on our facilities. I could go on and on for hours about that. And so my concern is moving forward, if we don't address our K through 12 system moving forward, and this is not anything that I'm not talking about any one school board. I'm not talking about any one superintendent. This is an issue that has gotten progressively worse over the past 30 years. So it is my belief that the only way that we can move out of this is that we have a strong intervention program for a limited number of years. Or if not, the data is only going to get worse. If we continue to have a heavy dropout rate, we will continue to have children that are in school that are more economically advantaged, and the state's going to have to put more and more and more money into this, taking more and more from the other 146 districts. So just simply what I'm proposing in this, and this other thing that the Senate has a version that we will continue to work on as we move forward. But I'm asking in this particular thing that we're going to create a 9-member board of managers that have total authority to right-size the system. The current school board would stay in place, but they would serve in an advisory capacity during the time that this 9-member board. The 9 members would be all Memphis Shelby County residents that are highly qualified in all areas of K through 12 education. They would not be anyone outside the Shelby County. And so what these people would do would be tasked with the role of contracts and facilities and curriculum and all the things that so you can have a well-run K through 12 system. And according to the legislation, the board will have the authority up to 4 years, with 2 years more if the Commissioner of Education felt like the problem still existed. And then, as I said, have authority over the contracts, curriculum, facilities. And so, and then we've asking that the board of managers, that they would give us a policy transformation place of what we're going to do after the first 90 days of them serving. So that's simply what we're trying to put in place. And this has been an issue that I have been working on for a while. And so it's one of these things that's kind of, some people say, why are you doing that? I don't know of any other answer right now, because what we've been doing hasn't been working. And I appreciate Representative Harris's bill that Chairman Sapiki called. We were on a rotating on the school board, and we had very few people showing up a lot of times to even vote for school board members. And so we just need to pay more attention to this. Also, I just want the committee to know that the administration, through the governor's office and the comptroller, we have launched a $3 million forensic audit, which is already starting to take place. So that's going forward regardless of this particular bill. So we have been working on this for a while. Like I say, I love our community, but if we don't address our K through 12 education and bring this up, then it's going to continue to hurt not only our community, which is a wonderful city, but it's continuing to hurt the state. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I do renew my motion.
Thank you, Chairman White. Just to reiterate, if you could just clearly state the triggers that have put in place for this bill to have to, for this bill to be to take effect in a district. Can you just walk us through those triggers?
Okay, that's on page 1, Amendment 6835. It says the Commissioner of Education may take one or more of the accountability measures in subsection if the commissioner determines it necessary. Number 1, that 30% or more of the schools managed and controlled by the LEA's local board of education were assigned a D or F letter grade any one school year for which the letter grades were assigned. That's number 1. Number 2, 25% or more of the students enrolled in the LEA are chronically absent. We've had difficulty with so many students since COVID coming back. And we actually, they're falling through the cracks. And item number 3, the local legislative body for the county in which the LEA is located approves by majority vote a resolution expressing that the local legislative body has no confidence in the local board of education. And that was done back in December by our county commission. And those are the 3 things.
Thank you, Chairman White. Members, we have any questions for the bill sponsor, Representative Glenn? Hey, we're going to stay with the one question, and I'll come back to you if I have to. Okay.
Oh, Chairman.
Yes.
My question was about how much money can I get out of that? But anyway,
hold on 1 second.
And I had 2 people come up from Memphis, is it 2?
Yes.
That asked to speak, so I do want to get to them before we move off the bill.
If the committee so moves to go out of session, we'll do that, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
Move, we go out of session.
are we going out of session?
Well, okay. Without objection, we will go out of session. There you have it. I have a Rachel Spriggs? Rachel Spriggs? Is that you, Ms. Spriggs? Just have a seat up front. Allison Byrne? Is there an Allison Byrne? Don't see an Allison Byrne. Is there a Marcus Randolph? Mr. Randolph, you'll come up and sit up here if you would, Pulver, please.
Just all the ones on the.
Okay. Mr. Randolph, are you in support of this bill or no?
Yes, I'm in support of the bill.
And then Ms. Spriggs, are you in support of this bill or no?
No.
All right, Ms. Spriggs, we will start with you. You have 3 minutes, ma'am.
Okay, thank
Introduce
you.
yourself, who you are and where you're from, and then we'll start when you start speaking.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Rachel Spriggs. I'm the Director of Power Building for the Equity Alliance. I reside in Memphis, Tennessee. For the last 20 years, I have served as an educational advocate, a former teacher, a coach for teachers, advisor for principals, a co-founder of a mentoring organization, a consultant for the now dismantled equity department in Memphis Shelby County Schools. But most of all, I'm a mother of school-aged children. I continue to take this ride from Memphis and join my team from across the state because we know that there are families of over 110,000 students that are desperately wanting accountability and not more instability. I know that if I and others like myself don't show up, there is this false consensus that Memphis wants this overreach from the state. There are hundreds of signatures collected across the 40+ impacted counties that are in opposition of this bill. There has been hundreds of calls and doors knocked to engage Memphis and Tennesseans at large, and we see this bill for what it is, no matter what version of it we're looking at. We are economically disadvantaged, but we are not incompetent. We know that this bill does not speak to the outcry from our city for better. House Bill 662 is nothing more than an opportunity to take advantage of our city's discourse by pushing for charter expansion across the state with no accountability, starting with the largest, blackest county in the state. And poorest county in the state. If this bill is in response to a cry from constituents who were not heard, then why are we pushing for an appointed board who we cannot remove for 46 years? Why is the majority of both bills focused on disenfranchising over 463,000 voters and charter expansion that bypasses local accountability? Our children are for sale. Nothing about state overreach can be used to make the case for student improvement. Who will take responsibility for the failed attempt of the Achievement School District? Who will be held accountable for the billions of dollars in the failed state-controlled district? Every committee meeting, we run into Memphis Lift, who is once again leading this charge for state overreach and charter expansion. But will they reconcile with all of the families that they convinced to unenroll from Memphis Shelby County schools and buy into believing that neighborhood charters would be better? What atonement will be made? Do we just keep experimenting on poor Black children, or do we acknowledge that as we give families choice, we don't have to dismantle the cornerstone of American democracy? When charters and state takeovers fail, public schools are where families return. Look at New Orleans. In Texas, they lost 5,000 teachers in the first year. Over 60% of their administration. Memphis want real alternatives. We are 45th in Tennessee for teacher compensation, reduce classroom sizes, provide more resources because
Ms. Spriggs, that's your time. That's your time. Okay. Mr. Randolph, introduce yourself, who you are and where you're from.
I'm Marcus Randolph. I grew up in Memphis.
Hold on. Oh. And you have 3 minutes when you start.
All right. I'm Marcus Randolph. I reside in Memphis, Tennessee. I have an opposite opinion of my colleague here, or my neighbor here. I don't think it's about a Black or white thing. It's just a children thing. We need to educate our children. This system has not worked in years at this point. It's not just today, tomorrow, or we feel like we're tearing it down or this, that, and the other. The fact is, we've watched them go through 4 superintendents. We've watched them in our face and go, we don't care what you say. We've watched our children continuously, education go down and down and down and down. When do we pull the parachute? When do we do that? We have not done that. We've sat there and let the system stay the way it is, and money just keeps rotating in and rotating out. And the same old people in the same circles keep continuously being in the same educational position. The only thing that I see that all of them want is $2 billion is what it's about. It hadn't been about the children in a very long time. Most people just scared of change is what it is. It's not about Democrat. It's not about Republican. I'm pretty sure everybody in this building wants the same thing for your children: safety, education, and to be able to move forward as technology moves forward. Right now, Memphis has been sitting stagnant. It's time for a change. I'm tired of the good old same thing that has not made our children go higher in education. That's what it's about. And people just get a change. But, I don't think any of us want to go out and get in the wagon today, do we? It's time for a change in Memphis. It's time for us to stop saying it's about a black thing or a poor thing. Every child in Memphis ain't poor. Every child is not rich, and everyone is not. Most people are in the middle. It's always that every time. Don't do it to the poor children. But our children are poor because they're not educated. I'm an uneducated man. I put 6 children through college. All I have is a high school diploma, including my wife. And I'm fortunate I've raised black children, and I've adopted 2 white ones from neighbors that got on drugs. It's time for a change, and I don't want to hear nothing about color. It's about education. Yes, Memphis is a black city, and that's who destroyed it.
Thank you, Mr. Randolph. Members, do we have questions for the, okay. Chairman's prerogative first. Miss Spriggs, my question, and it's going to be to both of you. My question to you is, why or why not are you happy with the educational system and outcomes in Shelby County schools? Hold on, wait. Well, go. You're good. Go ahead.
I just want to repeat the question. Why or why not? Why am I
Are
not?
you happy or not happy with the Shelby County school system?
I'm happy with the fact that families have a public school option. I'm unhappy that it's underfunded and that all students don't get the resources that they need in all schools, not just in Germantown, not just in Lakeland, not just in the municipal districts, but in Shelby County. I'm very unhappy with that, and given a fair opportunity of having an equitable and quality education.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Randolph, why or why are you not happy with the Shelby County school system?
I'm unhappy with the system because it's a failing system. It doesn't even give the children a sense of home. Most new schools, new districts, when people are moving up, they have their own stadiums. We don't have that. We're fighting right now about light bills, but we're so willing to pay for a PA system, and we don't even have a lights in some of the schools in my district. The only thing I'm unhappy about is the fact that we've let this happen for so long. It's deteriorated. We'll still be families. We'll still be people in this city. I'm always love Memphis. That's why I was born. That's why I was raised. My children was raised there. My education is Memphis City Schools. And I just want to say this. We keep complaining about charter schools, private schools, public schools. How long have we already had that? 20, 30, 40, 50 years? How many times has there always been more than one way to educate our children? Forever. So what are we so scared of?
Thank you, Mr. Randolph. Members for the presenters here, Representative Glenn, you're up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you both for being here. This is a very contentious subject. There's no doubt about it. And both of you make a very passionate argument for your case. But the question I would like to ask both of you, Miss Spriggs?
Miss Spriggs.
Spriggs, I'm sorry. Other than the funding, what other change could you see? If this doesn't happen, what change would you recommend for Memphis that would turn the tide of what we're seeing in Memphis? If this board is not created, what change would you like to see other than the funding piece? I got the funding, but what other change would you like?
Ms. Spriggs, go ahead.
Okay. I think that when you are serving a population that's as disenfranchised as the students in Memphis Shelby County schools, I think that of course you need investment, but I also think that because this bill was brought about, it was said that it was brought about due to the 4 superintendents, which in actuality was just 2, and we had 2 interims. I think that we need all around support. We need, and I'm not saying that the board is perfect. We are the Equity Alliance, and we do voter mobilization. I think that we need to continue on a local level. So once we get people in office, all of you all have been voted in. Once you get in office, you know what it is to be left to just do your job to the best of your ability. I think board members need support. They've been in office, for 4 months. So I think really providing, if anything, an advisory board opposed to an oversight board that yanks the decision-making power from the duly elected school board. I think they need support. They need, if you all going to do anything, provide them some support. Give them an advisory board, but don't take the decision-making power and disenfranchise over 463,000 voters. We all believe in multiple options for our children. We believe my children go to private school. But this year, a month ago, I found out that that private school would no longer be in service. So I am left with now a public school option, me and hundreds of other families. So we believe in charter schools. We believe in other options and choice, but we also believe that as we do that, we don't dismantle, I believe, the cornerstone of American democracy.
Representative Glenn, do you want to re-ask the question?
I'm sorry. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Randolph, same for you. If this bill does not pass and you have to do something, what would that something look like in your eyes?
Mr. Randolph?
Number one, in our system right now, we have the parents, we have the students, we have the teachers, we have the administrators. They're separate, just like that. That's why our school is failing. We don't do it together. Parents don't have a relationship with teachers. Teachers don't have a relationship with administration. And as you can see, our leadership and the board are inept. They didn't care. The reason why they did what they did is because they knew one thing: ain't nothing you can do about it. When you have absolute power, you'll also have absolute corruption. And that's what's been going on. I'm just going to be honest with everybody. It's not nothing else but that. And they did it anyway. Just because you have power and just because you can don't mean you should. If we ever start teaching the children from home first, pre-K, having relationships with the teachers, having PTA again, doing it together, our schools will change. But it is always, and always has been for a very long time now, forced for a separate situation. You can't just go to the school and pull up on your child and see if they're doing the things your teacher is saying. You can't do that now. You don't get a chance to talk to the principal. It's always a conflict there. You can't talk to the parent that your children are having conflict. You can do none of that. We've done this separate for a very long time. Does anybody know the saying? All you gotta do is separate people and you can conquer them. Our children are not learning. We stopped teaching reading in the 3rd grade. That's just about every school across Tennessee. They still read beyond, but they don't teach how to read beyond the 3rd grade. That takes parents, teachers, and having some kind of relationship. But it's not like that. Y'all can see it's a whole conflict. I have a principal in my phone right now that told students, and I want to know how anybody feels about this. You can use the bathroom 1 time throughout the whole day during your 30-minute lunch. Does that sound like school? Or does that sound like prison? What county provides the most prisons across Tennessee? See where it starts? When are we going to fix it?
Well point. Thank you, Mr. Randolph. Representative Johnson?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Ms. Briggs, one thing that I did hear you say was a lot of times people say that don't want the new thing. They say, oh, they just want the status quo. But I heard you mention a couple of things that you would like to see. One of those things was something that I think is incredibly important, that smaller class size. There was something else you mentioned besides that.
Teacher compensation. We're 45th in the state, in the country. Tennessee is for teacher compensation. So more, just more resources that for all schools.
Okay. Can I
You only get one question.
follow up?
You only get one question. I got other people who want to talk.
Well,
I
it's
can
the
come back
same
to-
question.
Oh, to the other person?
Huh?
You gonna ask the same question to the other presenter?
No, I just need the rest of the answer.
Ms. Briggs, you want to provide the rest of the answer?
Well,
I'm missing something. I'm sorry.
I would have spent a whole lot more time on my question if I realized what? Well, I am getting clarity. It's basically a follow-up to the same question.
Representative Johnson, go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead. Please be concise.
So my point of asking that, I love it when people say things that they think will solve the problem. You both have said things that you think will solve the problem. And I think that's really important. What my concern is here is we know that this sounds very similar to what they thought the ASD was going to do, and it absolutely did not accomplish any of those things. And so how do you feel about that and what the chances are when I see up here a lot of folks wanting to tell specifically Memphis how to run things? And what we see is Memphis trying to solve their problems locally, but the folks up here getting engaged and things like the ASD not being effective.
Ms. Briggs?
Yes, that's absolutely right. For the past 3 years, you see that Memphis is continuing to improve. We've been a level 5. We have had level 5 CVAS data from the last 3 years. We have the TISA funding, which is part of getting kids what they need, and you see the improvements. And she mentioned about ASD and us, and Marcus mentioned not wanting change. We all want change that is actually going to benefit students. Memphis Lift were a part of pushing parents out of public schools, and no one has taken responsibility for that failed effort $1 billion later. No one has taken responsibility. Who will take responsibility? Who will make atonement with those families that were displaced? And we just go on and we find another way to overreach? We're overreaching everywhere. We're overreaching with our district attorney in Memphis. We're overreaching with our court clerk. We're overreaching with our school board. It's overreach everywhere.
Ma'am.
Okay.
Stay on the bill, please.
Okay,
We're
I'm
talking
sorry.
about
Yeah.
schools.
Is they allow Memphis to handle Memphis problems. We see that state-controlled efforts do not work. We do not have data. We said we're using this bill. We're using Houston as a model. We've talked to Houston. We're talking to teachers. We're talking to principals. We're talking to researchers, and they are showing us that this is not the model to replicate. 5,000 teachers in the first year when we already have a teacher shortage. 5,000 teachers are lost when we already do not have enough teachers in our classrooms already. We're open to change, but we want to make sure that it ensures student achievement. This bill does not.
Mr. Randolph, you want to respond?
The state funded school that came and they tried to fund the school and it did not work. It failed miserably. It failed miserably because Memphis didn't even want to try. They felt the state was taking over. So the people that be, the powers that be, they came in, they attacked. We're not going to help it. We'll just stay off of it. We're going to do everything to hurt this than we will do to try to help this. That's what happened with that school. Mm-hmm. We don't have to sit here and lie about it. We don't have to sit here and play about it. And Memphis Lift, yes, I am with Memphis Lift. I don't even like charter schools. I'm more of a public school person. I'm more of a person, fix where you're at. Let me show up to this school. Let me be a parent at this school. Let me show up to these football games. I'm more of a public school person. I've always been that way. We fight about it, but we're not all charter, just like I'm not all private. But I do actually believe in taking a public school and treating it like it's a private school. The only difference between a public school and a private school in the state of Tennessee, teachers take the same thing, but the teachers in the public school have to be the teacher. They have to be the counselor. They have to be the security person. They have to go and know how to do technical things. They have to break up stuff all day long. And the last thing they get a chance to do every day is teach. That's why we have a teacher shortage, not just because of the money. And if we want to speak on the money, we got all this money. Why are our teachers still getting paid such low wages? Why are we still paying for things or contracts? And the children are going down, the teachers are not getting paid. I also have one more question. As Dr. Fagan was there, because this is beyond her now, I just want her to go somewhere and teach some other children somewhere. She didn't do a lot of contracts. She held those contracts up. She held a lot of money back, actually saving over $58 million. Within 2 days of Dr. Richmond being in there, $22 million of contracts were signed. I don't know. Maybe I didn't go to college, but I did learn how to read in high school. I did learn how to comprehend in high school, and I can do math. I don't think it'd take a rocket scientist for us to figure this out.
Members not seeing any more questions. Without objection, we're going to go back into session. Ms. Spriggs and Mr. Randolph, thank you for your testimony. You can resume your seats. Thank you very much. Representative Haston. Representative Haston. Oh, I'm sorry. Hold on. I'm sorry. I got to come back to the bill sponsor. Chairman White.
Thank you very much. And I appreciate my guests from my community of Memphis for driving up and being here, listening. I do want to lay one thing to rest that's been in the press and all over. When we say the state control, I have been elected by the people of Memphis for 16 years. I represent Memphis. This has nothing to do with state control. My Senate sponsor is Senator Taylor. He is a senator that represents Memphis. I am trying to represent the people of Memphis. It has nothing to do with state control. I just want to put that on the table. And thank you, Mr. Chairman, for that. And with that, I renew my motion.
Thank you, thank you, Chairman White. Your motion has been renewed. I think we're at Representative McKenzie. Do you have a question for the bill sponsor, sir?
Yes, I do. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I do appreciate you very eloquently laying out all of the reasons and justifications. And I'll be clear, does Memphis Shelby County Schools have a problem? Yes, I don't think anyone argued that. But as I listened to what you were saying, it was basically, as you looked at your numbers, Memphis is getting about the per pupil average. They got about in terms of the student population and the number of dollars that they get from the state, it's in line with their population. So I don't see where people talk. I'm hearing a lot of talk about all this money. Trust and believe, we all need more. So I kind of dismissed that piece at the beginning. So my concern is we are a republic form of government. We are elected to represent our people, and our school board is an elected body, and it's elected by the constituents, and we're overriding that. You're gutting that process. That's like saying we'll get the speaker and lieutenant governor and the governor to hire some folks to run the General Assembly. We can work, but we have no budget authority. We can't do anything. That's my concern. We had Black Wednesday in Knox County, and it was horrific, right? A lot of inside stuff going, just a mess. But we were allowed to fix it, and we did. So that's my concern. My one question.
Representative McKenzie, I'm going to apologize to you right now. Just hold on one second.
Problem.
Just hold on 1 second. We have a policy here that your signs have to be held at your chest level. I just got to be consistent. So if you'll hold them down to your chest so we don't block people behind you, that's all I'm going to ask you, okay? Thank you. Representative McKenzie, go ahead. I'm sorry. I do apologize.
Thank you. So, and honestly, and I know a lot of colleges deal with a lot of colleges. At UT, If you look at the largest population of UT students, African American, they come from Shelby County. Same with UTC, same for Tennessee State. So there are some successes. I think you heard gloom and doom in here today. I don't think there's gloom and doom, but there's a lot of work to do. So my one question to you, sponsor, is why not fix this the way you and Representative Harris had started fixing it by getting out ineffective school board members, getting to an audit. Love the audit. Thank you for appropriating those funds. But why not and then root out those things that need to be rooted out? But why are we destroying the republic form of government in Memphis, Tennessee?
Chairman White.
Thank you very much. I just don't think we can continue to wait more years, waiting on the next election, and hopefully get in another board that would do the thing. You've got to get a majority of people that are willing to take the hard knocks and do something. And I'm just tired of wasting our young people's lives. They're coming out of school every year in our community, and I just don't want to wait any more years.
Representative Reedy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And of course, Chairman White, of course, we are all here for education. And we know it makes a difference in our children's lives. Question for you, sir, is upon passage of this bill, in your mind's eye, will you, the senator, be able to motivate the parents, the grandparents, to get engaged with their children's education, that hopefully they will see a potential change to go that direction, Mr. Chairman?
Chairman White.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairman, Representative Reedy. Yeah, I think anytime you put something out there to give the people hope, you wouldn't believe the amount of outreach I have had over the last number of months, even if not years. When you give a community hope that you're moving in a different direction where they really see no hope right now. So yeah, that will be the task that we will give to the Board of Managers, which then can put advisory committees. And I would hope that the current school board to stay in place and that they will work in advisory capacity with them. But we're going to have the right kind of leadership that we start to change directions for that to give the community hope and move forward. We had one of our schools yesterday. I saw the news while I was up here. Students walked out. They walked out because of lack of teachers, a lack of leadership in the school. I don't know the details, but we've got to turn things around and give our community hope in the K through 12. And when you do that, you change so many things.
Thank you, sir.
Members, I've sat on this board, this committee for 7 years with Chairman White. And for 7 years, we've looked at the Memphis school system. Year after year after year of lack of performance. Year after year of myself, I know, coming down to Memphis multiple times to meet with teachers, to meet with principals that were scared to meet at the school because of retribution from central office. I've met with parents and mothers that were crying, pleading to us to intervene to save their children. I just believe after 7 years of sitting here, we have to say enough is enough, and we have to provide the help for this district to help it change itself so that it can become the district that it used to be. And it's a tough vote. We know it's a tough vote. We listened to two people testify here talking about the same district with two different explanations. 7 years, some of you sat here with me for 7 years, and we've contemplated this decision. And I think we've just reached a time with what we have in place here that it provides a logical process that can help Shelby County get out of its own way and affect the changes that have to be affected so that our children in Shelby County can get the education that they deserve. I'm back around. Anybody wants to ask any questions? If you want to raise your hand, If not, I'm gonna move for the question. Okay, I have an objection to the question. Do I have three hands, please? I have three hands. We're gonna put it on the board, please. So, well, I've already went around one time. And so I went around everybody one time who was on my list. One question. Okay. Well, okay. I have Representative Glenn and I have Representative Johnson one more time. So Representative Glenn, you're up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And to Chairman White, Chairman White, I know you are very passionate about what you do. I've seen it firsthand, and I thank you for that. I know you care about Memphis, and I think you really and truly want to see Memphis be successful, and that says a lot. But my question is, if this bill should pass, what determines when the state steps away and out of the way so that Memphis can be their own entity? What is the determining factor? What is it that you're looking for? What is that matrix, that goal that says, okay, we can now move out?
That's a great question, Chairman White.
Thank you. Well, the language in the bill is that the board will be in place for a minimum of 4 years. And then the Commissioner of Education at that time, either the board goes away at that time or it can be extended for another 2 years. So I think through the process, through the Commissioner of Education, that we kind of write through the authority, because it's been done in other areas, that we will know at that particular time that we are on track. And as mentioned a while ago, the bill that Representative Harris has, where we kind of get the school board lined up, where we have more people showing up, things. I think we'll know at that particular time.
So just to clarify, a minimum of 4, maximum of 6.
Correct.
Thank you. Representative Johnson, you can wrap us up. You have a question?
Thank you. Yes. We talked about the bill sponsor said that, he was from Memphis. So this was a bill for Memphis. But the reality is we are the state legislature and we are taking over something that is normally handled locally. And we're doing it. I'm up here a lot and I hear, oh, we've just got to do something. It's not working. And I understand doing something, but I understand doing something that is research-based and data-driven and has been proven to work. And this has not. It's an idea that some people think will work, but it's the same idea some people thought would work 10 years ago and it didn't work. So there are things that we can do and talk about that would work. It's been established that what Memphis is getting in TISA funding is based on their population and is on par for what Tennessee is giving. But the reality is we are in the bottom 5 of the nation in funding, per pupil funding for our schools. So we know that we are trying to have an A+ school system on an F budget. And I see us tearing down what has been built locally, trying to put something in place we've tried before that didn't work. And I just would like, you're going to allow 6 years. What did we allow for the ASD? I think maybe 10. 6 years is a long time for something that, may not do the trick. And research shows us it's likely not going to do the trick.
Okay, members, I want to say thank you for the discussion and being civil about it. I really appreciate that. With that being said, without objection, we're going to take the question on this bill. Madam Clerk, will you go ahead and take the vote, please? Please vote. Madam Clerk, take the vote, please.
Mr. Chairman, you have 15 ayes and 4 nays.
House Bill 662 moves off the finance.
Thank you, committee. Okay, members, we have one more to go. It's 6:11, and I know members are probably been a long day for us. We're now going to go back. 47. Turn in your hymnals to item 47, House Bill 25. Do I have a motion and a second on, okay, let's see if we got any, we have any amendments, Chairman?
It's 006547. My mic.
It does not, okay, motion, second amendment, it does not rewrite the bill. So for clarity, any objection to me letting the sponsor tell what the amendment does before we add it to the bill? Is that correct?
That's fine.
Okay. That objection, Chairman Speaker, you
Thank
are.
you. Thank you. So members, first of all, the sections in the bill besides section 1 are already code. Bills we've already passed, it's already code, it's already there, referencing TSSAA. What those other sections do besides section 1 is we're going to create a new section of code dedicated to every bill we pass on TSSAA so that legal has a uniform place to find it and put everything. It's now a hodgepodge all across code. Section 2 on down, all it does is the stuff that's already there, and we're just going to organize it into one section of code under the heading of TSSAA. That's all it does. Section 1 is the new section of this bill that we are considering today. It is to do with the ever-changing landscape in sports, especially in high school. We are privy to, well, here, I'll stop right there. Is that enough for the committee? And so then I can talk about the whole bill if we add it on. And then I'll talk about the whole bill in its entirety. So we get in the right position. That's okay, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. We're on the amendment. Members, any objection to adding the amendment to the bill at this point in time? Do you have a motion?
Second.
And a second. Any injection, without objection, all those in favor of adding the amendment 6547 to the House, to the bill under discussion, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. It is now the bills properly. At this time, I'd like to go to Chairman Haston for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll make a motion that we end debate at 7 p.m.
Okay, that motion is before us. Do I have a second?
Can I clarify that? Chairman Haston, is that a vote by 7 p.m.?
I would like to clarify.
Okay.
No, a vote no later than 7
o'clock
p.m.
Perfect.
That motion is before us. Any objection to that motion? I see no objection to that. To that motion.
All those in favor?
So all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Okay, the motion carries at 7 o'clock. With the debate, we will cut off debate and we will take the vote at 7 o'clock. Back on to Chairman Sapicki, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So knowing we have a shot clock now, I'll be as brief as I possibly can. Members, Section 1 deals with a one-time transfer of our high school athletes. Since November of this year, when TSSAA and I crossed paths on this to start this discussion on what this legislation might look at, it started out as very amicable, and unfortunately, it's kind of gone downhill from there. So I'm just going to try to tell you what the amendment does and the reason for the amendment in trying to address concerns of TSSAA with imploring help from the Attorney General. So if you have the amendment in front of you, looking at Section 1, I'm going to read to you what TSSAA has already approved at their March meeting. And we made some change here to make it work in language, but I'll let you know when it gets verbatim. A public school shall not use public funds to join, become members of, or maintain membership in an association that regulates interscholastic athletics unless the association, now it starts, allows a high school student who transfers for the first time to another member school due to a significant academic, social, emotional, environmental, or mental health need to be immediately eligible to participate in interscholastic athletics at the member school to which the student transfers. We're still on what they've passed. If the sending member school does not attest within 7 days from the date on which the student transferred that the student's transfer is due to athletic or disciplinary reasons. That is pretty much verbatim of what they passed. And we are codifying that. The second, in number 2, it says the student's transfer occurs before the first day of school year for which the student seeks to participate in interscholastic athletics. The reason why that is in there is because I think we all agree that we do not want athletes transferring mid-season playing for another team and invoking this part of the bill. So if they're going to transfer and use this bill, this what TSS has passed, that it has to happen before the start of the school year. Therefore, we stay away from what California, Texas, and Florida allow are mid-season transfers to the point of mid-season during the football season transfer. So that's why that is in there. Now, TSSAA, 2 weeks ago when we were in committee, they had a concern about if we put something in the code, it would take away their, for lack of a better word, their immunity protection that's been granted by a 1968 decision when they were sued, and the state courts ruled that parents or people who were suing TSSAA on their rulings did not have standing with them. Now, the reason why B is on the bill that says this section does not create a private right of action, that was asked, when I asked the Attorney General on this, that's what they came back with of to provide the protection that TSSAA has right now when it comes to lawsuits. That section, this section does not create a private right of action, is in direct correlation to what's already in code. In TCA code 13119, it talks about express language required to create or confer a private right of action. And it says, I'm reading verbatim here to you from TCA code, in order for legislation enacted by the General Assembly to create or confer a private right of action, the legislation must contain express language creating or conferring the right. The bill that we have with this amendment does not confer the right. So it maintains the 1968 decision according to the attorneys I've been working with at the Attorney General level. It still maintains that, for lack of a better word, and I don't know a better word for it, the immunity from litigation that TSSAA enjoys at this level right now. Before this bill passes, it would carry on moving forward to them to protect them and the decisions they make. Now, TSSAA, since 1925, has been a 501c3 voluntary monopoly in the state of Tennessee when it comes to athletics. That's what they are. The reason to codify this, and this is where I'll stop because I know we have testimony. The reason to codify this, and I'll be as blunt as I can, is the relationship that has happened between myself and the senators from November to where we are now. The lack of distrust with the Board of Control has grown to a point that unable to protect these athletes and these students for this transfer, the only way to protect them from moving from TSSAA coming back after we leave and doing away with this part of code or this rule that they've passed, or amending it in a way that returns everything back to the status quo. That's why we have to pass this piece of legislation. Now, they're going to argue to you that, well, now it's not about the litigation. Now it's about they want to have the ability to be able to be flexible enough to change the rule. Well, we're here every January. So anytime there need to be some type of rule change, we would be here to effectuate that change for them. Because they would come to a representative, one of us obviously, and asked us to say, hey, we have a problem with this, we need to change this. But they're not going to know there's a problem until they start implementing this rule. And I think what we're going to codify lines up with what TSSAA's intent is to allow an athlete who has a significant academic, social, emotional, environmental, or mental health need to immediately be eligible unless the sending school says it's for athletic or disciplinary reasons. So they still have the control to regulate the athletic transfers if the sending school signs an affidavit basically saying that, yeah, hey, we believe that this is for athletic reasons. And I think that's why we need to have this in place, is to make sure that we protect not only the rule that's been in place from TSSAA, but we act to protect the integrity of the whole system that this bill falls under. So, members, I'll be happy to answer your questions on this to the best of my ability, but I know our members from TSSAA has been waiting for a long time for this bill to come up. So if there's, Mr. Chairman, I'd make a motion that we go out of session to hear from TSSAA.
Well, thank you for that motion. Members, without any objection to that, we do have some members who have some guests who have asked to speak on this. And so without a objection, we'll go out of session. Mr. Colbert, Mr. Mark Reeves, and Mr. Grant Swallows, are we all here? Let me ask this. Is there a Kate Bryson and a Brittany Bryson in the audience
No,
still?
Mr. Chairman, the weather held them out.
The weather held them out.
Weather held them out.
Okay. So, gentlemen, are you here in support or in opposition to the legislation?
I'd have.
You're all on the same team.
I'd have a
Okay.
heart attack.
That's correct.
Okay. What I'd like to do, we will have discussion, but if you each of you, all three of you going to speak, or just you got a spokesman?
I can speak on behalf of the three, but certainly these gentlemen are here to answer
Answer
questions.
Okay. Why don't you take 3 minutes to lay it out, and then we will go to questions from the committee.
So Chairman White, committee members, we certainly thank you for the opportunity to be given to speak today. I'm sorry, I'm Mark Reeves, Executive Director of Tennessee Secondary School Athletic Association.
Thank you. Why don't you all go ahead and address yourself so for the home audience so that we don't have to come back and do that.
I'm Rick Colbert. I'm TSSAA's General Counsel.
Grant Swallows. I'm the Director of Schools in Warren County and also serve on the TSSAA Board of Control.
Okay. Mr. Swallows, you're recognized. Or, yeah, back to you.
Thank you, Chairman White. I'm here to respectfully ask this committee to vote no on House Bill 25. An affirmative vote will inadvertently lead us down a path towards a lack of transfer restrictions, again, to that wild, wild west that Chairman Sapicki referred to that's currently observed in the NCAA. I'm guessing that few, if any, of these committee members up here would say that that is a good idea, and I know that that is certainly the case from Chairman Sapicki. That being said, we would be confident that this would lead to unintended consequences. Codifying eligibility rules is full of unintended consequences. Arkansas and West Virginia, two states who have most recently codified language into their eligibility rules, have recently entered back into the legislature to hopefully undo some of the problems that they have caused. It is very rare for a state to codify eligibility rules, and there were 3 states that were identified incorrectly in the Education Administration Subcommittee as having codified eligibility rules. Interscholastic athletics is a sacred space. We certainly believe that we are different from from collegiate sports, from professional sports, from the travel sports space, the club, the AAU ball. Our member school bylaws are really based on three fundamental principles, and the change that our legislative council has brought into fruition certainly keep these principles in place. That's keeping athletics in its proper perspective, fostering fair competition, and preventing the exploitation of student athletes for athletic purposes. Codifying House Bill 25 is a threat to all the aforementioned principles due to the very likely result that this would lead to the eventual elimination of transfer restrictions. Perhaps there's going to be a day when our member schools and the general public will want this, but that day is not here. Our association has consistently evolved for 100 years to become less restrictive for eligibility, and I respectfully would say to Chairman Sapicki and to this group, we're not going back. There's no way we're going back. And we would certainly know what would happen if we went back. That's not what our member schools want. They want this new transfer rule. We've discussed it for 3 years. We're not going back. And to the due process, we are not immune to the court system. If any parent believes that we've discriminated or acted arbitrarily, we're subject to the courts, and we're in court every year. 482, this is a statistic you need to listen to. 482 families appealed through their school eligibility through a hardship application process. Of 482 during the 23-24 school year, there were 17 students that were denied eligibility when they exhausted the appeal process. 17 out of 482. Any one of those 17 have the authority or certainly the right to challenge that in court. We are not immune to the courts. Our legal counsel, Mr. Colbert, can certainly explain the complexities of what this brings to the organization and some of our concerns in greater detail. I know Mr. Swallows can certainly speak on behalf of.
Okay, we hit 3.5 minutes. What we do is let you finish when we start asking questions from the committee. So we're out of session, committee, with what the chairman has given to us and with the layout originally by one of our guests. Anybody have a question? Let me go to Chairman Haston, had his hand up first, then I go to Representative Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I had a quick question. I've heard from the Basketball Coaches Association, and while they were in favor of the rule change, they had reached out to me and not in favor of it being in code. We'd heard previously that the Football Coaches Association was in favor of it being in code, and then it turned into it was being in favor of it in rule, but not necessarily in code. They were up to speak in the Senate, and they didn't show up at the Senate. And I just was wondering if there's any update or had been any communication, if the Football Coaches Associations had reached out in any capacity in support of this going into code.
Yes, sir, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chairman White. I did speak to Matt Bates, President of the Tennessee Football Coaches Association, last week after the Senate hearing. And in his conversation, there's certainly hesitancy from that group about supporting this bill.
Thank you. Thank you.
Representative Johnson.
Yes, I guess my question will be somewhat related to that, because in the correspondence, in the conversations, and in the phone calls I've gotten, every single one has been asking me to vote no on this piece of legislation. And predominantly, those requests are coming from coaches. And so I was going to kind of ask what our coach is saying. But I think you just answered with basketball was mentioned, and you all mentioned football. Everything else, is it similar? Or?
So
you recognize?
I'm sorry, Chairman White. I can speak to a survey that we distributed to our coaches, all head coaches for all sports. That was nearly 10,000 head coaches. It's not an apples to apples question, but the question was, are you in favor of a one-time transfer with no restrictions? And 60% of our head coaches, about 33% responded, so 3,500 or so did respond. And 60% of those coaches were opposed to a one-time transfer without any restrictions. I know that's not exactly what we're talking about here, but the coaching community as a whole, as a majority, is not in support of this at this time.
Thank you.
Representative Glenn.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And just like my other two colleagues, the calls and the emails I've received, and the fact that I did actually reach out to a couple of coaches in Montgomery County, they are not in favor of this as well. You did mention that there were 17 cases, I believe, that were denied of the 400 plus. Was there a common theme in those cases as to why they were denied, as they exhausted their appeals? Was there a common theme in why?
You recognize, sir?
Yes, thank you for the question, Representative Glenn. I would say that the large majority of those would be because, based on the testimony of the other school, they believed it was exclusively for athletic reasons.
Any follow-up on that? Okay, Representative Chairman Sapiki.
For TSSAA, the rule that you have passed, does it prohibit an athlete for transferring for purely athletic reasons?
You are recognized.
Thank you, Chairman. The rule as written, if the sending school were to attest that the move was exclusively for athletic reasons, then yes, that transfer would be initially rejected. They would be ineligible, but they would still have that appeal process that would first come to me as the executive director. And then if I were to appeal that decision, it would then go to the Board of Control for their consideration. If they were to deny that decision, they do have the jurisdiction of the courts if they feel like that we've acted arbitrarily, and we defend those cases quite often.
Follow up, sir.
Chairman Sapiki.
So I believe the answer was yes. If a sending school said it was for purely athletic reasons, then that would be denied. Does the language in the bill mirror exactly what TSSAA has passed?
You're recognized.
Actually, Chairman White, I know this bill has been amended a number of times, but I believe this most recent version is actually more restrictive than what the Legislative Council has actually passed. The belief of the Legislative Council would be that if you have a student athlete who has a significant mental health, social, emotional reason to transfer, academic reason to transfer, it should not be limited to the beginning of the school year. In other words, there are a number of items or ways in which a student can transfer and retain immediate eligibility, regardless of when that happens. One of which would be when a student moves, bona fide change of residence to another school system. They don't have to do that at the beginning of the year, nor should we feel like that these students should have to wait until the next year. If they've got a significant or legitimate social, emotional, mental health issue, why would you restrict that?
Chairman Sapiki.
Thank you. And you gave some statistics there. Do you know, out of your membership, what percentage of your members are public school membership and what percentage is private school?
You recognize.
Thank you, Chairman White. I would say that's approximately 75% are public and about 25% are independent. May I make a follow-up statement to that?
Yes, sir.
The Representative Johnson asked about the opinion of the coaches. When we have surveyed our independent school administrators about how much they are in favor of a one-time transfer, 75% of those, 74% of our independent schools are against it, as compared to 60% of our public schools. So actually, independent schools are more opposed to this philosophy than public schools.
Chairman speaking.
So is it safe to say that TSSAA, your board of control and your board of, I think it's directors or whatever we want to call it, would you say it's safe to say that they work for their membership?
You recognize?
Yes, sir. I would say that that is a true statement.
Chairman speaking.
So if you work for your membership and the vast majority of your membership wants you to overturn this bill, why wouldn't you do it then?
You recognize?
Chairman Speaking, I'm not sure I'll follow that question.
Chairman speaking.
Once again, you said that 60% of your membership does not believe in the one-time transfer. Okay. If 60% of your membership is telling your board of control right now of the surveys you took that they don't want this, are you telling me on the record right now that you're going to ignore the wishes of your membership?
You recognize?
Thank you, Chairman White. That question, as I stated earlier, is not an apples to apples question at all. this is not a one-time transfer for any reason. And one of the main principles that I alluded to was fostering fair competition. If you allow transfers for any reason, including athletics, you have that wild, wild west that we all say we don't want. That's what the NCAA is. I can transfer for any reason. In many cases, that's monetary, and that's not at play at the high school level. But if you allow transfers for any reasons, you have competition without rules. That's recreation. That's not what we do.
So,
Chairman speaking.
okay, so I'm confused. You just confused me here. You just told me that the vast majority of your membership does not want a one-time transfer. You just told me, you told this committee that you work for the membership that you represent. If the membership that you represent wants your board of control to overturn the rule that you passed, are you telling me that the board of control is going to ignore the membership? That's a yes or no question.
Mr. Rees.
That's not a yes or no question, Chairman Speaker. I respectfully disagree with that.
Okay, well then give me your best.
Sure. The membership in the question that we asked, that I gave you the statistics for, was a one-time transfer for any reason. What the Legislative Council did and what you were asking this group to codify is not a one-time transfer for any reason. The Legislative Council, if you saw the debate, had extensive discussion about reasons why student athletes should be allowed to transfer that fit within these three parameters that I outlined. A transfer that's for any reason is not on the table. And that's the reason why, honestly, it's taken us 3 years to get to this point, to find something that works, which we did, and for which we were understanding with some good faith conversation that we're very appreciative of, that you would drop this bill when we came to something that we could agree upon. It feels like we've agreed upon the philosophy of this bill because you're asking to codify it. But that codifying that bill is going to create these unintended consequences. And the real question is, why are we doing this?
Chairman speaking.
The reason that we're sitting here is because myself and others watched the Board of Control meeting and your board. What's the other board called? I'm sorry, I can't remember what it's called.
You recognize?
The Legislative Council
Thank
is the
you.
one that make this change.
Thank you. The Legislative Council. From watching those in March, we were shocked when we saw the vote 8-5 because your members argued against doing this. And then the vote took place and it was 8-5. That's what is giving myself, as the sponsor of this bill, and the senators, is that you said that you work for your membership. If your membership comes to you and says, we don't want this anymore, whatever you have passed, and you work for your membership, are you telling us that you're going to not listen to your membership and disregard their thoughts? Because we have a member from the Board of Control here that I listened to speak in the meeting. As a member of the Board of Control, if your membership in a majority says we don't want any type of transfer, go back to the way it was, are you telling me as a member of the Board of Control you're going to ignore that and not represent your membership?
Mr. Rees, or whoever would like to. You recognize, sir.
Thank you. Ultimately, that is a legislative council decision. So the Board of Control cannot vote to overturn that decision. That's semantics, and I can't speak for the legislative council. But what I can say is that after that vote took place, I communicated to my schools, 49. I represent 49 schools. and said that this is what the Legislative Council has come to based on discussions of legislation at that time was talking about one-time transfer. Lots of schools were scared of a one-time transfer. They don't want that. So what was proposed by the Legislative Council, what was accepted by the Legislative Council, they felt like was a good compromise, allowing student athletes more opportunities for eligibility if they do transfer. Again, I can't speak for the Legislative Council. I can speak for the Board of Control. It would not come to us, Chairman Sapicki. But again, I can say for my school, I represent a school district. It's already been passed. We're already working to figure out how to approach it and figure it out going forward.
Chairman Pickey.
I'll let someone else have.
Okay, let's go to Representative Hakeem.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, gentlemen, for being here. And in its own way, you all are in a hot seat. You're before legislators who don't see the world right now the way you see it. And I thank you for expressing what your understanding is of what your organization and its leadership has put forward to you. Now, I just want some clarity. As we stand, I guess right now, after the decision of Legislative Council, okay, what are the parameters? Are there guardrails? Tell me something about that.
You recognize?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would say that the guardrails come from allowing the sending school to weigh in on the transfer. And that was very important. But a very important part of that process is the fact that there are a number of administrators that don't want to get into that fray. And the Legislative Council gave them a way out. And that way out actually defers to the student athlete. In other words, if that principal of the sending school goes silent for 7 days, then that student is eligible. Whereas currently, the assumption would be that there's something up and that student is ineligible unless I can actually call somebody on the phone and get them to tell me otherwise. So as a part of this major change for the organization, we've given that way for those administrators to, one, weigh in if they know they've got something that's significant, but then two, to stay out of the fray and defer and let that student be eligible.
Representative Hakeem, you can follow up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I heard something about with the legislative entity that there was a vote, I think it was 8-5. 8-4?
8-4.
Okay. And that, well, what I was hearing, I think there was a belief that maybe some shenanigans went on, that the discussion that was heard, I guess it was on film or whatever, seemed to imply, infer that the vote was going to go one way, but when the actual vote took place, that it came out 8-4. Has the membership or anyone from that legislative body expressed displeasure in I suggest the legislative body, that they were coerced into the votes that they made?
You recognize?
Thank you, Chairman White. No, sir, that is not the case.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Let's go to Representative. Oh, yes, sir. You're recognized.
If I can speak to that vote, we had to go through a process to get to this, what was a very significant rule change for TSSAA. Part of the reason we had to go through a very deliberate process to get to it is if you've watched what has gone on at the NCAA level, and they've lost their ability to restrict transfers due to antitrust challenges. And so we had to consult with an antitrust expert. I don't proclaim to be one. We consulted with a guy named Maurice Stuckey, who teaches antitrust at the UT College of Law. And he told us as we went through this process to create some version of a one-time transfer, we need to make sure all the way through the process, we're being true to our guiding principles and letting those principles lead us to whatever outcome we come up with. And Mr. Reeves talked about that, maintaining athletics in its proper perspective, preventing exploitation of students, keeping a level playing field between competing schools. So we went through that process. It was a time-consuming process. We had special call meetings of the council to go through the process. As we went through the process, I guess there were some people from the General Assembly who felt that we should be going more quickly than we were, and we got criticized in the press by some people from the General Assembly. We were accused of giving the General Assembly the middle finger. We were accused of being tone deaf. Now, these people on the Legislative Council, they heard all that. They read those comments. I'm sure they didn't react especially well. Nobody would to being told that when they're trying to go through a very deliberate process to get to a monumental rule change. And I think that may account somewhat for the 8-4 vote rather than a unanimous vote when they finally voted on it. Because I think there was some pushback over the kind of public criticism that they were taking just for doing their job. These are school administrators who come to Nashville for nothing, for no pay. They volunteer to do a job. And they were being publicly chastised for not doing it quickly enough. And I think there was some reaction to that, but they're not going back. They've never gone back. I've represented the organization since 1986. They've never gone back when they've loosened up an eligibility rule. They've never gone backwards and tightened it back up. They know if they did that now, I mean, they know from the public criticism that they got what the legislative response would be. And so we're just asking you to let TSSAA do what TSSAA does.
Thank you. Representative Sapicki, the sponsor of the bill, wanted to respond.
Yeah, I want to clear some stuff up here. I didn't want to do this, members, but I'm going to have to do it. When I originally met with TSSAA, I met with Mr. Reeves and Mr. Tolbert in my office in November. It was before their December meeting when they were going to have their legislative council meeting. And I had my bill drafted, ready to go to be dropped. And I called in a meeting with Mr. Reeves and Mr. Tolbert. They were in my office and they were talking about this. And when they had left, they asked me, hold on, don't drop the bill. I said, okay. Before their legislative meeting, Mr. Tolbert sent me an email. It said, Scott, thanks for inviting us to meet with you today about your TSSAA bill. After discussing the matter further, Mark and I have concluded that it would be very helpful if you would go ahead and file the bill before the Legislative Council meets again next week to manipulate their board to push that meeting to January. Then school choice came about. They were supposed to have a meeting after the school choice bill in February. And I let them know that I was going to go ahead because of the Education Freedom Act scholarship, that those students who wanted to take advantage of the Education Freedom Scholarship because of the current policy that they had at TSSAA would be ineligible for athletics if they left for academic reasons. And Mr. Reeves called me back on the phone and said, please don't do that. We think we're going to solve this for you in February. And I said, okay, once again, giving him a chance. You might want to ask him what the vote was in February. And so the bill's been crafted. The Senate has run it. You can understand our frustration. Do I trust TSSAA right now? The answer is no. From the process that we've got to right now. All I'm trying to do in this legislation, all I'm trying to do is codify something that their board has approved and making sure that we don't affect them going forward when it comes to litigation. And that's why that one part in the amendment about private right of action was put into the bill. It's a very simple thing here. And members, if TSSAA has to have a change because of something they've experienced, they will come to the General Assembly and we will effectuate the change for them. That's all the bill does. It's not very complicated. But somebody here, since 1925, has got to stick up for these kids. They're not doing it. I have, and I've been asked not to give their names out, but members, you want to look at this? I'll be happy to let you look at them. These are people that they say TSSAA has treated them grossly unfairly in their children's transfers. And a letter, it is on the bill, and a letter that Miss Lauren Jones, who is the director of eligibility for TSSAA, in her letter admits that parents do not have access to all the information that TSSAA considers when making a determination on an eligibility case.
Okay.
Let's let the sponsor,
Oh, I'm sorry.
okay, all right.
I'm sorry. I'm done. I'm sorry. I
Okay.
didn't watch.
Let's go to Representative McKenzie then.
Sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You know, when we first laid this out, I appreciate Representative Hastings putting that time, and I thought it was going to be plenty, but we've let the sponsor spend a lot of time. But that's where we are. You know, I'm looking at it from the other side. TSSAA has been around since 1925. Leather helmets, no shoulder pads, probably corn baskets for buckets, and they've evolved. And let me say up front, you know, I'm active with the TSSAA. For the record, I'm a football official, and there's nothing like a Friday night in Granger County or Sevier County or Knox County. I'm telling you, there's nothing like it. They've evolved. They've evolved with rules based on our behavior. I had a middle school principal talk about a dress code, and he said, well, no one ever knew that they were going to put wheels in the bottom of tennis shoes, and you have to outlaw those. They have to be nimble. They have to be nimble. And every year, every sport, it evolves. Not just on the field, but how you manage that sport evolves. To say that it's simple to come back to this General Assembly or any General Assembly because of an evolution that needs to take place because of an unintended nuance is not being genuine. It's disingenuous to say that. It's disingenuous to say that it's easy. Nothing's easy. Nothing's easy in this process. So, and we talk about, I've heard conversations about the membership. Well, if the members didn't want any transfer, you should never have a transfer. If football coaches wanted, you know, you could what they call, you know, clothesline someone or drop kick someone to make a tackle. The coaches may want that. They're defensive guys. They want that. It doesn't mean that you respond. You respond reasonably and in an organized fashion. And that's what they've done. They've responded to an outcry. And this outcry is by, I'll say, the next body, NCAA, in complete bedlam. So they've had, you got to account for the bedlam going on in college, but you have to say we got to keep our state wholesome. And so I take great offense at saying that they've not done a good job. They've done it 100 years. And we're talking about a February phone call or a January phone call to say that now that they're irresponsible. That's disingenuous at best about an organization, an entity. 2 questions, and I'll ask them
Can you
together.
make them quick? Because I got
Yes,
four more people and I got 3
yes,
minutes.
I wish you said that 15 minutes into a
Well,
dialogue, Mr. Chair.
okay.
I agree. 2 questions. From a legal standpoint, I've heard conversations from our body, non-lawyers, say that you guys are impugned from any kind of law suits going forward because of that one statement, private act. That's one question. Then a question for the gentleman on the Board of Control from Warren County. You kind of answered it. What happens, not just with this one, what happens when the Board of Control, Legislative Council come down with a rule? What's your process for getting it to the students, to the coaches, and to your team?
I'll address the legal issue. The legal issue, it's not immunity. There's a body of law throughout the country that the courts don't have jurisdiction to intervene in the internal affairs of a voluntary association. And that's what has been applied to TSSAA since 1968 in a case called TSSAA versus Cox, where a court in Knox County was asked to second guess an eligibility ruling on 2 transfer students. This amendment doesn't, I mean, we still get sued. We can still be sued for constitutional violations, violations of federal statutes. We can be sued if we make an arbitrary and capricious decision, but we just can't be sued for a second guessing of an eligibility ruling we make. This amendment that was offered up today doesn't completely solve that problem. I know it was represented that it solved the problem, but it doesn't, because there's still something out there called and one of my lawyer colleagues in your body will be familiar with this. It's really hard to understand, but there's a petition for a writ of certiorari. There's common law certiorari and there's statutory certiorari, and even common law certiorari is in the code, but statutory certiorari is available in situations where no other avenue for appeal is allowed, and we've seen people try that before. And once you start putting eligibility rules into state law, I'm afraid the next step, even with this amendment to the statute, is going to be somebody is going to say, well, we've got this state law. We have no avenue for appeal of TSSAA's decision. I want to file suit. I want to file a petition for a statutory writ of certiorari. And we're going to be right there in court with de novo review by a chancery court of our eligibility decision. Now, maybe at some point, an appellate court will say, no, you can't go that way. You can't do that. But in the meantime, we're going to be defending lawsuit after lawsuit after lawsuit of people trying it.
Okay, thank you. Gonna go to, I got 1 minute. Representative Stevens, yours next. Can you ask a question and finish it up in less than 1 minute?
I think you have 2 very simple questions. The first one is, are coaches prohibited from changing schools in the middle of the school year?
You recognize?
The answer is no. That would be that's always going to be a local decision. We don't have any rules against that.
You recognize?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And then my other question was, I heard the statistics in the poll that was done. Were any parents polled in that, or was it specifically just coaches?
That was just coaches.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, members, we're right at 7 o'clock, and we made a motion in the beginning of the committee. We have to honor that. So I will recognize Representative Slater. We're back in session. The motion has been made. We're back in session. Thank you, gentlemen, for being here. I need to call the questioner. Ready to go? Okay, the question's been called. Any objections to the question? We have the motion in place with no objection to the question. Would the clerk please put the vote on the board? Madam Clerk?
Mr. Chairman, you have 10 ayes and 9 nays.
House Bill 25 moves out the calendar rules. Thank you, committee. And before you walk out, before we adjourn, I just want to say thank you. This is a great committee this year. I want to thank our legal and our research analysts. As you see, they keep me straight. We got Payman, my assistant, who did such a great job on the mic, as well as keeping my office straight. James, thank you, everyone. Who am I leaving out? Sergeant Kevin Raper.
Our clerks, Desiree and Celise.
And our clerks, Desiree Reese, thank you for sticking with us. Without objection, we are adjourned except to the call of the chair.